You see this one here on my forearm? That's from where the XLR bit me.
I got you beat there. I got you beat. You see these chapped lips? That's from that 7-hour Dune episode we recorded.
No. I've got you beat. See right here? For the listening audience, I'm pointing to my heart. Right here? That's from all the people not liking, subscribing, and leaving 5-star reviews. Welcome back, everybody, to Cinema Forecast. My name is Alfredo.
And I am Connor.
This is, of course, the movie podcast where every month we are randomly assigned a category. Attached to said category are 4 movies that we feel fit this category. And each week we take one of those movies and we go in depth and talk about it in the context of the category. Connor, hit them with this month's category.
We're doing aquatic films, Alfredo.
Hell yeah, we are.
We're getting wet.
We're getting real wet. We should have done training day. I didn't know you liked to get wet. And last week we did Pirates of the Caribbean. And Connor, will you please tell them what movie we're doing today?
Dun, 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 dun. We're doing Jaws.
Hell yes. The film that popularized the half step in music.
Yes, this was the first half step.
There was never a score that really showcased the half step quite like this film.
Actually, there's truth to that, though, right? Like, it is pretty amazing how just this little simple melody is just so insanely iconic. It's kind of like the screeching in the Psycho film. It's just like a very simple concept, so iconic, so effective, and like, used more than just a half step in this film. Used very effectively.
Yeah. Really good shit. I love it. We are going to jump basically straight into things, but I did want to tell a very quick, brief story here. As y'all know, I am a person who is a fan of context. I have in the past referred to myself as the king of context. And I had this really awesome moment last weekend. I work at an Italian restaurant, and a celebrity came in, but that's not really important. Their sibling was there, who I saw on a podcast. This guy, Aneez Ansari, who on the Doughboys referred to himself as the king of context. And I had the opportunity to say, hey man, me too. It was pretty great.
Yeah, pretty wild. I've never met a celebrity that big, so.
Yeah. I mean, he was nice, and I didn't really talk to him very much. I made him some drinks, and they seemed to enjoy themselves, and were nice. And yeah.
Did they start singing songs and showing each other their scars?
They should have. It was weird. They brought in a full projector, and they were playing a 35 millimeter print of this film.
That's so coincidental. Wild.
In the restaurant, yeah. Isn't that great? It works really well, too, for the structure of this podcast that they did that, too, because now we can just start talking about the podcast straight away. I mean, about the movie straight away.
I know. That's so convenient of them for us.
It's
so
really nice that they did that for us. Maybe we should derail ourselves and get lost on a tangent really quickly.
We should.
Speaking of tangents, Jaws. 1975.
Wow, man. What a film. The first blockbuster, I believe. Have you heard this?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've, like, at least the prototypical, if not the first, the one.
Yeah, well, it kind of brought, I think it just kind of like upped the game of theaters, right? They were now expecting. They set a new bar for theater going,
yes.
I guess is a better way to
It was the
put
highest grossing film of all time until the release of a film 2 years later, which you can hear all about on episode 4 of Cinema Forecast.
Yeah.
So when was it? Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
That's a great question.
Wait, branded segment. First time you saw this movie? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, we need a little theme for this section.
Brought to you by Clorox wipes.
I had a very interesting impression of this movie for most of my life, and I think I just saw bits and pieces of it on TV or just people had on. And my impression of it for the longest time is that this was just kind of a monster movie. And I didn't really think too highly of it, too much of it. And then when I got more into movies and realized it was Spielberg, because I didn't realize that for the longest time, I was like, okay, let me watch this again. And I think it was, again, we've talked about this a couple times now, was those college years where you and I kind of started jumping into movies more and taking them a little more seriously, I guess you could say. And yeah, I just put this on one night, and it was just so freaking awesome. Love it. Love this movie. It's amazing.
Yes. Yes, your college years, because this was my post college years.
Yes.
Because I'm older. I was born first, and I finished college first, even though it took me a long time. And then I went back actually. So I was during my college gap years. But I remember you watching this movie because this is similar to some of the other films we've talked about. It was I just watched this. You should watch this. And I was like, the funny thing too is like, I think a lot of times I was kind of like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, and then you put it on and be like, oh wow, that was really dope. That was super fun. I don't remember what my general attitude was or disposition towards watching this at the time, but I do remember really enjoying it a lot. And I think it's cool because it is like this dramatic pause. It is this sort of piece of like filmmaking that's like super accessible, but like it also does have a lot of like depth to it.
Yeah. No, it's so funny you mentioned that because I was thinking about this while I was watching it last night. Like, this is the magic of Spielberg at his best, I think, where he takes kind of these concepts or stories that could otherwise just kind of be kind of a crowd-pleasing good time, and he really elevates it into, for lack of a better word, like high art. Like it feels like it has like, you know, the sophistication and the intention of craftsmanship is something like There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men, but it's like this very fun kind of premise mixed into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. It is a great example of a lot of really good like visual language, a lot of like really awesome sort of themes as well. Speaking of themes, you know, this one is definitely big on that sort of like man versus nature.
Oh yeah,
sort of arc.
Very Moby Dick.
Very Moby Dick. Actually, the funny story, when they were looking for someone to direct this movie, they didn't initially like. Spielberg wasn't the first person they approached. They approached two people. The second before him, the second person was this guy Dick Richards, who directed this movie called The Culpeper Cattle Co. And apparently, when they were doing like meetings with him, he kept describing the shark as a whale, and that's why they dropped him, because they were like, "This guy's so annoying. Why does he keep calling it the shark a whale?"
That's really funny.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun little story. So this, to get into like the sort of nitty gritty of the film, it was based on a book. The book came out in 1974, and I guess it was mentioned in some sort of magazine before it came out. So one of the producers came across it because his wife edited this magazine, and they like acquired the rights before it even came out in like 1973. The book was written by Peter Benchley. He wrote the first three sort of drafts of the script,
which is awesome. I love that like the writer was involved in this.
Yes. Spielberg did not love what he was seeing in the script.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Like, yeah, apparently like they also like decide to drop a lot of like the subplots like from like the novel. I guess there's more like, obviously it's like a novel, but he brought on a writer named Carl Gottlieb, who's a writer and an actor who was working on The Odd Couple at that time. I guess they were like friends previous to that. This guy also he got his start working on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. He also worked on the script The Jerk with Steve Martin and some other guy, and he plays one of the mayor's guys, actually, like his like right hand man.
Oh, okay. Is that the guy he convinces to go into the water on the beach?
No.
Okay.
It's the guy who's like getting everyone together for the picture of the shark at one point.
Okay, yeah.
And then also Peter Benchley plays the actual writer of the novel, plays the interviewer.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, super fun stuff. And so Carl Gottlieb gets brought on to sort of add some levity to the script.
Okay. Yeah, which is very welcome, I think, in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they shot this all in Martha's Vineyard, so that's I love that sort of thing. You know, the scenery is very true to what like Amity would
Yeah.
actually like look at. And apparently it's like one of the first big movies to be shot on the ocean, which is
Oh.
what brought on, I think famously, you know, this production was marred by
Technical issues?
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, they had Bruce the Shark. Was that the one that worked or didn't work?
I don't know, but this is I think Bruce is what they just. I think that's just the shark's name, right? Are there?
Because there was 2 animatronics, I believe, and one of them was broken early on, and
Yeah.
then they got a second one that worked. And I think they might have each had a name, and one of them was Bruce, and the other had a different name, but I'm not positive there.
Second appearance of Bruce on this podcast.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
What was the... Oh, yes, Finding Nemo.
I was wondering, do you think this shark, if it spoke, would have an Australian accent as well?
Oh, man, that's a question. It must, right?
Yeah.
It
I
must.
mean, he also hates humans. We
Yeah.
haven't seen him eat fish, so maybe fish are friends, not food, but humans.
Wow. Oh,
food.
no, we killed...
Oh, and they're
we killed
Americans too.
Bruce.
Remember, they hate
No.
Americans. It's great. It really works out, I think.
Maybe Bruce was their brother or something.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think it's very cool how this is part of why there's this sort of Hitchcockian approach of like implying the sort of
The
monster, right?
Yeah.
like, and of course we get that iconic like use of music throughout
Yeah.
this film.
Yeah.
Super well implemented. Again, these are a great example of like this sort of like visual sort of dictionary that we're employing to like
Right.
build tension and stuff. But
And we've been talking about it already, but this is our second film with John Williams on the score, which just, again, fantastic. Like Star Wars, noticed a lot of the medley stuff happening again this time, a lot of the themes mixing together to kind of create something even more interesting. Again, I'm just so struck by the way he weaves a story of his own into the story, especially the more you pay attention to it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I think also very quickly, because I always like to shout out my DOPs. We have Bill Butler on the camera for this one.
Beautiful looking movie.
Yeah, no, it is great. He also worked on, I guess, Grease.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And he worked with Haskell Wexler, who is like a famous cinematographer on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, there's I definitely, in terms of the shots in this movie, I definitely really noticed just the amount of interesting shots, just like mixing it up a lot in terms of the way you were seeing what was happening. It would be, shots behind like a window, or shots that are off center, or looking at things from below, or and the lighting of everything. Just like a lot of really cool stuff in here.
Yeah, for sure. It's not super like showy cinematography.
Yeah.
It is very like maybe not quite blue collar, maybe like sky blue collar. It is actually kind of like this cool combination, I feel like, this sort of like high-low thing of like this like very workman cinematography with some really like artfully done stuff, which is I think it's so tempting as an artist to like be like, I don't want to do the homework, I don't want to take the necessary steps, I don't want to practice like this classic composition, I just want to get to like doing it my way.
Right.
And I think this film is like a great sort of like example of like doing your homework, and like it really feels like, yeah, this like it works to further the story, and where we have the space to like try some like interesting stuff, like let's go for it.
Totally. And it very much ties back into what I was saying about this, just like the whole style of this movie kind of being this happy middle ground between like crowd pleaser and like high art, because with something like There Will Be Blood, you have these long beautiful shots, but like that's not going to work for a lot of people. A lot of people they'll be like, this is slow and boring, and so I think it's awesome to be able to mix that in with something that is more appealing to a wider audience, while still like giving something to people who want more out of like the visuals.
For sure. It's pretty wild that this was directed by like 27, 28-year-old.
Spielberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Very impressive.
It is so like, yeah, like to be reminded of that when I was like sort of looking at the background on the film, I was like, oh, that's right. He like got into this like so young and really had like a point of view already. Like I really, really respect it. And perhaps, you know, like the folly of youth is part of like what was able to like carry the project through, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I do kind of get the sense that this is a lightning in a bottle type of movie where it's just like everything is cooking,
Yeah.
everything is boiling over.
Well, it sounds like lots of things were like not rotting. Sorry. I'm just like cooking, like things were like, you know, spilling and stuff,
well,
you know?
that's part of the magic of it, right? Just these happy accidents that ended up like elevating it, right?
Yeah.
That lightning in a bottle, just like you couldn't have planned it to be this good. You couldn't have
happy
forced
accidents
this.
I think is generous, like, and is like a great way to look at it now, but back then I could just imagine like tearing your fucking hair out, like, oh my god,
Absolutely.
what the fuck are we gonna do? Yeah, let's hit her play by play, as I like to say. Damn, that should be a shirt. Hit her play by play, as I like to say. Cut this out though. That's gonna seem too schemy. I love right from the beginning, underwater, like, and the sounds, like, before we even get the visuals.
First, before we're even underwater, it's just black title card screen. And
I mean like sound design.
Oh yes,
underwater,
you hear the bubbling of the water, and then the very light boom, 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 boom. And like, it's become such a meme at this point, that theme, but it really is used so effectively in this movie. And I took a bunch of notes about it, just the way it's constantly kind of like there's a lot of fading in and out of the music, which is unusual for a score. Usually it'll, you know, that'll just be the end of the music there. But no, it's like the fading out is kind of
the lingering
and also the unknown of the ocean, right? It's you only get a little peek of it and then it sneaks away again.
There's a great visual representation of that moment later on too, I think, that I'll make a note to get back to.
Wow, look at him taking notes over there. Yes, that was my first note too. I love just like setting it up with the sounds of the water.
There's also some strong horns that I didn't remember, like in that sort of first interpretation, like where it almost feels kind of like the intro, like really when the horns kick in, it feels like the intro to like a 70s like show, right?
Oh yeah,
like Columbo or something.
I can see that.
Yeah, but John Williams, just right off the bat too. That's so like the movie really feels like when I watch it now, I'm like, oh yeah, Spielberg, but like first thought is John Williams.
Man, yeah, he's
to be a composer of that level. There's few like that, like Ennio Morricone, right?
Yeah.
Like where I have his name more accessible in my head than Sergio Leone, like you know, a lot of times.
Totally.
I mean, maybe sometimes the Zimmer, you know, the Zimmermeister. I almost called him the Zimmerman.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, we just did Pirates of the Caribbean, and his name comes to my mind first.
We just did 2 Hans Zimmer movies back to back.
True.
Wait, no, 3 Hans Zimmer movies back to back to back.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Because we're insane, dude. Yeah, Connor's lips are still chapped.
They're
dude.
still chapped.
So like and subscribe, 5-star reviews, and send money in an envelope for cash, preferably for the Chapstick Fund.
Chapstick Fund.
Yeah, after this sort of like underwater opening sequence, we have the hippie harmonica bonfire, you know?
Yeah, and this is a very effective just getting you in. They do this throughout the whole movie, or at least the first half, where they set you up to be at ease and kind of imagine yourself in the situation. I mean, most people have hung out around a bonfire on the beach, right? Like this is a lot of the horror of this movie is the just complacentness of you know, you never expect something to just come out of the deep and grab you, right?
Classic like monster movie beginning as well. Classic sort of horror movie beginning. These like young kids. Yeah. Everyone sat around a campfire.
It's just good vibes.
Cracked some cold ones.
I thought it really captured that energy
what
really
is that
well
beer?
too.
They're drinking the beer.
I didn't think about it.
The big beer in New England. Not East Coast listeners are gonna fucking hate me, but yeah, dude, we've all sat around campfire, smoking doobies, playing harmonica, being
Summer
hippies
love.
in the 70s.
Yeah, giving eyes. Dude.
I do love the look. It like something about the 70s is so like film to me.
Yeah, and this also begins a ongoing I don't know, it's weird to call it a motif, but it's just something that's like throughout the whole movie is people talking over each other.
Yeah, I kept noting it is very sort of like naturalistic
Yeah.
dialogue
Yeah.
over and over again, where it's just like this sort of like chaos, but like almost like this murmur that like exists.
Right. And that's like pretty artsy, but like it still feels so accessible, right? Like I could see in the hands of a like, you know, lesser artiste, I guess, just people getting frustrated and annoyed by people speaking over each other the whole
It
movie.
is, I think it is a little frustrating and annoying.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
They're also having like a seafood boil. Did you notice that?
No,
Yeah,
I
I think they're like
didn't.
eating like crab and
Oh
shit.
yeah, I didn't notice.
I love it. Very, very New
I was
England,
jamming
yeah.
out on the guitar. There was some cool
That would have
guitar
been
riffs going
Connor
on
for sure.
Yeah, it would have been me.
Classically Connor.
I'm the guy with the guitar.
Yeah, we get introduced to Chrissy, the guy, you know, what's your name again?
Right.
And this is very broad sort of like drunk performance. Again, as I love to say, doesn't take away from the movie, but when you're sitting there with a critical eye, you know, like, slow down, I'm not drunk. My note for that is literally meh.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I didn't think about it much, but yeah, a little over the top. It's also kind of being played for comedy, right? Or what does he say when he falls over? I can swim,
Yeah.
I just can't walk or
Yeah.
put my clothes on.
Yeah, it's like, you know, silly stuff. I think a stronger performer might have done a little bit. Daniel Day-Lewis as a drunk dude, you know, that might have been a little bit more effective. But
I can swim, I just can't.
and from the beginning, we have this really cool sort of backlighting and the bonfire, and then in the next scene with the sort of like sunrise, we get that cool sort of like backlighting. It is very like gray, like the water and the sky like blend together.
I love that it's like into the sunrise, this
Yeah.
whole sequence.
Yeah,
too.
it's like
so
right
cool.
before dawn.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, they're going skinny dipping, and one of my themes for aquatic movies, freedom, and it's just like this is the subversion of that, right? Where they feel free, but they're not, right? This
Yeah.
is not their domain they're going into.
Yeah, I think that's a big part, like, because it's like the beginning of sort of summer going into like 4th of July. There is this big sort of like freedom from like responsibility, like time to take a vacation,
Yeah.
like, you know, take a load off. And then to have that sort of like thing of like the universe doesn't work on your schedule, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Back at it with that Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the beauty of the sunrise and the water and how that's mixed in with the horror of what's about to happen, I think is just like a really haunting juxtaposition of, yeah, just like, especially after it grabs her and then she's like finally gone and it's just the stillness of the water. He's just like asleep on the beach. Nothing happened, right? Like,
Yeah.
very eerie.
He like mumbles at one point, I'm coming. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and we get the, you know, this will come up a bunch of times, but the underbody shot of the shark approaching her
Yeah.
as she's kind of
The
like
legs.
helplessly kicking. Yeah.
Legs are very big in this movie. Everyone wants to talk about Quentin Tarantino and feet. Nobody wants to talk about Spielberg and legs. No, I'm just joking. I don't. Man, next Spielberg movie we watch, I'm gonna be looking at those
keep that-
gams.
Yeah, it's just that'd be
Makes
really
sense
funny
for-
if we slowly uncover the Spielberg kink for legs.
Makes sense for like the film for sure.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that sort of like focus on people's legs. There is a very cool like match cross dissolve to like from the sky to the sky later.
Mm-hmm.
Where like the sun is now like fully out, and we like hear Brody, you know, how come the sun didn't used to shine in here? She says the whole thing. We bought the house in the fall. This is the summer.
Yeah, very quickly setting him up as the new guy in town. He's still kind of adjusting. He's a fish
Yeah.
out of water.
Yeah, we get the whole like in Amity you say yad, and he says like how's that sound? And she says like you're from New York.
Not too far from the car.
I love the like way he like when he gets up, he does this really great physical acting of like of gingerly like walking on the ground. And when I wake up, especially like after having like worked a full shift, and I work on my feet all day, so like when I wake up in the morning, my feet are like recovering, right? And I stand up and I walk just like that, like very gingerly across like
Same actually. Like I don't have like I'm not on my feet all day for my job, but I do feel like my legs are a little more cramped up in the morning. So you just gotta like. Sometimes I'm worried I'm gonna get like a little muscle cramp if I just jump into it too
Yeah,
quick.
it's something like almost like walking on the ground, like there's like hot coals there.
Right.
Like, but yeah, I feel like he does a great job of that, and I friggin' love Roy Scheider in this. I also
Yes,
like one
so
of the things
good.
about this movie
yeah,
that like
go
really
ahead.
has always like kind of confused me
Uh-huh.
is the fact that the three main actors, all their names start with R. So Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw.
Yeah.
And then put
Good
on
point.
top of that like Richard Dreyfuss, I always get mixed up with the other guy. The guy who's Tom Hagen in fucking The Godfather.
Oh,
Robert Duvall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
always
funny.
get all these people mixed up.
That's funny. I can see
Robert
that.
Shaw less, but I'm always like, wait, that's Roy Scheider, right? Like now that I'm older and more have watched more and more film. Speaking of Roy Scheider, big film recommendation: Sorcerer, 1970s film with Roy Scheider. Highly
I
recommend
think you've told
checking
me
that out.
about this one. I haven't seen
Ooh,
it.
it is so fucking good. So fucking good.
Nice.
But yes, so
We also got a really cool shot when he's doing the whole like in the yard where it's like again like just kind of unconventional camera work where it's him walking out of the room and the camera's kind of like shaky following right in front of his face. Just like interesting weird stuff that I feel like he's doing that the whole movie and it's just constantly keeping you like, ooh, that's interesting. Like it's just, mixing things up constantly.
yeah, for sure. The kid when he runs into the kitchen, he's got like a wild cut on his hand. Like there's so much blood.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, he runs in, he's like, look at my hand to his mom. And we get all this overlapping dialogue here as well.
Yep.
Where we're getting very important information, but it's being sort of obscured by like this day-to-day sort of quotidian banter, which
Yeah.
I think is such a like theme throughout the film, which
Yeah.
is like there is this impending doom,
Yeah.
but so much of this quotidian banter or day-to-day necessity that is like laid on top of it. And I think part of it is that eventually like you get to the sort of headspace of Brody where you're like, can we just like cut the bullshit and
yeah.
like take care of what's important?
He's a very cut the bullshit kind of man, and I love that about him. And the intro is also like serving the purpose of showing that he's a family man. And that is a big part of the heart of his motivation in this story is his love for his family and protecting them as well as protecting the town.
For sure. It's the reason he moved to Amity. He'll say later on, in Amity, one man can make a difference.
Yeah, I love that line. And when he's leaving, his wife says,
I want my cup back.
but she tells him to be safe. And he says, in this town, like the very much,
Yeah.
it just like classic hero's journey. You're starting in this safe space. Very soon, though, we're going to have the call to adventure and he's going to have to go on a perilous journey.
It kind of already have with like we hear him say missing persons. Like,
oh, yeah, he's
in
on the
that
phone
scene.
in
Yeah,
the kitchen,
and
right?
So
yeah.
you're like, oh shit.
Right.
And then as
He had a literal phone call for his adventure.
yeah, exactly. And then his whole sort of interaction with the dude, right, who was passed out on the beach. We get this reinforcement of the idea that he's from New York and like this sort of like insular community. Like I'm an islander, and so if you're not familiar with the sort of culture of those islands out in Massachusetts, which I'm not really like, but I imagine it's very much like this. It feels very sort of like grounded in like, oh, there's the mainlanders, but like we've got a little bit of like a different culture. And then again, it being set on an island, reinforcing those themes of isolation, right? Of sort of like the vastness of existence around you, like this sort of little dot.
Yeah, very much setting up the man versus nature in a location.
This small oasis of civilization surrounded by the wild ocean.
The unknown.
Yeah. And then the sudden whistle from Hendrix,
Yeah, I like the acting from this guy here.
It's very big, but it's good. Like I don't mind it here. He's got a bunch of spittle on his face. He just looks like he's in utter despair. And we have this cool framing of him in the foreground, and they run up in the background, Brody and the other guy, and we just see the reaction on their faces, and then this sort of like shot of just her hand sort of like sticking up
Yeah.
over the sand. We just
Covered
kind of
in
see hair
crabs.
and like her hands,
Yeah.
and
Very
like we
creepy.
don't get a good look at like the full body.
Yeah.
And then we do have this very sort of telling scene of like where we're going, which is Brody looks at her, then turns and looks over his shoulder out at the like vast ocean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good setup, very creepy. I like that they keep just kind of hinting at the horror of what's left of her body, because later we will also get like an autopsy on her, which is very intense for Hooper's character. So yeah, cool. Just showing, not telling by the performances around, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. This next scene is one of those points where the overlapping dialogue is like,
A lot.
yeah, it
Yes.
is like
The
hitting
secretary
the
is just
threshold.
talking to him while he's just talking over her, and she
Yeah.
keeps talking over, and like she's talking about the kids have been karateing the picket fences.
Yeah, I love too the mention of the fences, because there is this whole white picket
Yeah.
suburbia thing that's
Yeah.
going
Well, this is
throughout
their biggest
the
problem
film.
is kids karate chopping picket fences. That's the most the cops have to worry about. There's 2 cops in this town. I didn't quite like really realize that until they fully state that later, but yeah.
Yeah, and we also have the 2 dudes like sort of looking solemn, and I love her just walking straight past them and immediately starting talking. Like she's so unaware
Right.
of like what is actually like going on around her, which is, because it's just like, oh, it's this town where everything is always the same every day, and
Yeah.
so like why wouldn't it be again?
Yeah, totally.
And then we get like a lot of cool stuff set up with well, not a lot, but we get a couple things. We have that it is the 4th of July, because
Yes.
she's like, you need to talk to the fire chief. And I love immediately we're starting to see how much he has on his plate. Like,
Yeah.
and
Everyone's trying to ask him to do stuff like the whole movie until
yeah,
he leaves,
absolutely. There's gonna be a great scene right after this where like he's being like asked, like you said, yeah, throughout the movie he's always requests are being made of
Well,
him.
because we get like him walking down to the shop because he's trying to grab supplies to put up
Right,
signs.
because he does ask where are the beach closed signs, and Hendrix tells him that we've never had any.
And I don't know, something about the way it's shot, or it's just the town. I feel at home and cozy when he's like walking down the street. I don't know if it's like cherry blossom trees or whatever, but yeah, all the white picket fences. Like, it's just like such a cute town, and it's just really immersive showing him walk through the town, go into the shop. As soon as he walks in the shop, yeah, the guy who owns the place just keeps talking his ear off while he's grabbing supplies and stuff, and then he goes outside.
Well, no,
and
the guy's actually talking to somebody else.
Oh, okay,
He's
okay.
actually he's telling before he walks into the store, like you said, we see all these white picket fences. He gets that guy who's like, look what the kids did to my fence, like the guy with the like, they've been karate chopping his fence, and we see the huge like 4th of July banner
Yeah.
to reinforce this idea like that we're coming up on this major day. And then in the store, the guy is saying, the shopkeep is saying to another guy, you haven't brought me a single thing I asked for. And I thought it was kind of cool because it's like, because he's saying, I need all these summer sort of supplies. And it's setting up, oh, the beach is going to be closed, bro. You don't even need those things. But I thought it was a fun, like, sort of little background thing to have going on. And then, like, when he walks out, that's when we have Hendrix pull up. And I love, like, how quickly this is, like, sort of like, there's so much going on. And with the overlapping dialogue and the way that it's sort of shot and edited, it just there's momentum through it. And I just love he pulls up, he's like, there's these Boy Scouts out swimming, like we gotta go take care of them. And very important part that I forgot to mention is with the secretary thing, he's on the typewriter
Oh yeah.
and he types shark attack.
Yes, yeah, we see that very cool little
Which is
procedural setup.
the first like mention of it.
Right. Yeah, good point. And yeah, we see the mayor walking in as there's kind of like a parade going on. I love that too, like because it's like the 4th of July setup, like like on top of all the chaos of people nonstop talking, they're also like walking through a parade happening, and the mayor is like trying to catch up with.
So it's kind of
Brody.
like a fair thing.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't think it's like people marching down Main Street.
Right.
But it does seem like there's like a lot of like shops and or people getting cotton candy and shit. Who knows? But and he's wearing like the costume choice in this, the wardrobe choice is so great because
Yeah.
you just see him wearing this suit with anchors on it, which is so corny, dude.
Yeah.
It would have been
The
so
mayor's
easy to
super
just have
corny.
him like wearing just a suit, but no, he's wearing this suit with like anchors on it. So like he loves living in like on like this town. Like you already know, like he loves the ocean. He's a very aquatic guy.
Yeah. Well, he's
right
kind of like
off
the
the bat.
mascot of this town in a way, and he's great as a kind of the human antagonist of this movie. He's kind of the antagonist of the first half of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's getting in the way of like again, he is the noise over like
Yeah.
what's really important.
Yeah, and when he gets on the little ferry, I guess, for the car, it's just like it's an interesting ferry. It's just like a one car ferry basically, and he gets on it.
I do also love that he's trying to get to Brody.
Yeah.
Brody gets in the car
Yeah.
and drives off. He tells Hendrix. I also love how he says, "Let Polly do the lettering for the like signs." He's like, "What's wrong with my like?" And he's like, "Have Polly do it." He drives off, and we see the mayor's like trying to get to him, like
Yeah, and so he pulls up to him on the little ferry.
And this is where we see Carl Gottlieb. He's
Yeah.
He's one of the dudes who we see like with the mayor.
That's great.
It's him, and then there's like the like medical examiner as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And like a cop, I think, or I don't know. Just the ferry guy, I think.
Right, yeah, because there's only 2 cops. It's basically just the chief and the deputy, it seems like. And so, yeah, I like this little moment from the mayor because it really tells what kind of guy he is. The first interaction we see him have with Brody is Brody's kind of like trying to focus on the business, right? He's trying to go after these Boy Scouts in the water. And so he's looking ahead, and the mayor comes up and grabs him by the arm and like pulls him and turns him around because he's like distressed that he's closing the beach. But right from the jump, it's like disrespectful, like pulling Brody's focus away from more important things, just like. Yeah, like seeing himself as the center of everything and the most important like voice here.
Yeah, and immediately it's very simple. Like he's just like I think when you really think about it too, it's not like not a like I totally understand where
the mayor's coming from.
Like,
absolutely. Well, he says first summer we need summer dollars. He's worried about the economy of the town.
Yeah, absolutely. Like so understandable.
Yeah.
I think like it's not hard to understand where he's coming from. It's wildly irresponsible, but I like that, right? Like that he's not like, oh,
evil
I
just to be
like,
evil.
Yeah, it's not even like he's like, oh, like I own everything in the town and I need my no, like he knows that people are going to be complaining to him if like they have to shut down the beaches. I love too that he says we don't have to serve them a smorgasbord, and I thought that you would appreciate that second smorgasbord reference in the podcast.
I love smorgasbord references.
You are famously a lover of Swedish culture.
Well, it's funny. Like I was thinking about Tremors a couple times throughout this movie, and this almost feels like a high art Tremors in a lot of ways, where it's like it is this kind of monster movie, like. Slow burn tension of them slowly having to deal with this under surface creature, and but yeah, a little more artsy, a little more human.
I don't know if I would say high art, but definitely more artfully executed sort of like version of a monster movie.
Totally. Yeah, I put it in the high art category just because I think the character analysis or like the character like study stuff is so interesting, especially in the later half. And yeah, like I said, all the like cinematography is just super evocative to me. And yeah, great dialogue.
Yeah, I think it is an artfully done piece of populist media, which I think is awesome. I think that is more important really than these like overly movies that I love that are just very sort of like art forward. Like this is very much like story first.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it has such broad appeal. I also really I thought it was so fucked up that the medical examiner is like, yeah, it's a boating accident. And I'm just what the fuck, dude? Like that's how easy to like how hard did the mayor have to lean on you for you to be like, oh yeah, let's just change it to a boating accident? And the way that he's very like condescendingly explaining these things happen, girl gets like caught up in the rudder. Like it happens much more than you think. And it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Do not try and pull the wool over my
he
eyes.
has the whole line about if you start shouting Barracuda, people are gonna panic. If you start shouting shark on the 4th of July weekend, like for him, it's just like, even if it was a shark ban, come on, we can't do this.
Yeah. And it is like sort of this, the mayor is getting more and more to like just being completely like, just like fully stating what he's trying to say. It's almost like he's trying to like imply it for Brody. And when he seems like just based on the body language and everything, he feels like Brody is kind of like not really listening to him. He like spells it out for him. And as that's sort of happening, we see Brody walking to the foreground of the frame and everybody's watching him from the background. Like everybody is like staring at him. I think giving us this like idea of like this, his role is so central. Like despite what the mayor does and how he leans on him, like Brody does ultimately have this responsibility.
Right, and that responsibility is basically his character arc, because he's willing to accept the responsibility the whole time, but he doesn't quite know how to take full power of it.
And it comes around because like with the slap that we'll see later on, I think it's so easy to read that as like, oh, he got fucked by the mayor. No, dude, like you were fully responsible for that.
Yeah.
And I think I like that the movie kind of takes that sort of viewpoint. Like we're sympathetic towards him, but we're not going to take it easy on him, Right,
and he doesn't take it easy on himself, which is really his whole motivation.
And speaking of the slap, the next scene starts with
and her son.
Yes, with Alex Kittner complaining about his fingers getting pruny. Or she's complaining about his fingers getting pruny.
Yeah,
but he wants to go back in.
Yeah, and I really noticed here, I'm usually don't have a great eye for color palette stuff. They're really using yellows here to indicate warning and danger. The mom has a yellow hat on. He's wearing red swim trunks, and he's jumping onto a yellow life raft or a floaty and going out into the water. And then we see the guy with the dog. He's wearing a bright yellow shirt.
Yeah, this is another big like blue, yellow, green, and then there's definitely red is a very crucial color in this film. And I feel like the blue in this movie is such like a like blue, green, gray spectrum. Like we definitely were getting some grays in Pirates of the Caribbean, but this one plays much more with the use of gray as like a sort of implication of the unknown, and just as a result of like naturalistic filmmaking. That's another thing about this. I feel like this movie feels very sort of like natural. Yeah. Like even those shots that are like more artful, there is like this like the like motivation for like the like angles all feels very natural.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we were saying, the dialogue also feels very natural. And it reminds me of, well, we were talking about like what our most grounded movie is. And I would say probably There Will Be Blood is still a little more grounded than this. This feels a little larger than life, but this might be number 2 for just like most grounded, feeling like a real story.
Yeah, I am not versed enough in marine biology to make a call on that.
That's fair
versus
too.
The psychopathic killer Anton Chigurh,
Right.
Like, cause I'm like
top 3, we'll say.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I forgot to tell you last week I found some treasure on this island that you can only find if you've been there before. And now every time I go out in the moonlight, I look like a big scary skeleton.
That's true too, I guess.
So I love like there's the guy with the dog, there's the kid, there's so many things going on.
Yeah.
And what I like is this sort of like, there's the smorgasbord, like, and who's it gonna be? Like who's gonna be the appetizer? I also like, again, with this sort of like overlapping things, we're getting the dialogue from these people who appear to be like like they seem to be like friends, or maybe like their kids are friends with the Brodies, and they're talking to like Ellen, and Ellen says, well, I want to know, because they're all complaining about the non-islanders, like, look at them, they're all these like, they don't live here. And she goes like, when do I get to become an islander? And she goes, never. And there is this like theme throughout of like, insular, tribalistic sort of communities.
Yeah, and just like different classes, and there's definitely like this tension between Hooper and Quint later on of
experience versus education.
Totally.
Which
And just,
I
like,
think is a really fun,
and all that.
Yeah, for sure. Experience and education, also like blue collar versus like working class versus like upper middle class. Or it seems like he has like a lot of money.
Yeah,
I think
he
seems like he's rich.
He's very rich. Yeah, he talks about because there's a point later where Brody asks him like,
how do you afford all this?
Or I think he asks him like, how rich are you? And he's like, well, what, me or my family?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, they're all very rich.
Yeah. Like he comes from generational wealth.
Yeah. This whole like, I think that's one of the things this movie does like amazingly is just the slow tension and like the scene, like you were saying, all the chaos. Who is gonna be the one who gets got, right? And it's Brody. We are through Brody's eyes here. He keeps trying to see over the shoulder.
He's looking
of
around
the
this guy. Taft.
talking to him.
Taft is his name.
Yeah,
The last name.
There's the guy with the cap on who's under the water, and he comes to talk to Brody, and I think he has a yellow towel again, like just showing the danger here. He's distracting Brody from what he should be focused on. I love that he says to him, "That's some bad hat, Henry," or whatever, and he's just like, "What the hell?" All right.
Yeah. And we get like the girl screaming, him looking around, and this guy Taft just asking like for personal favors, like, oh, there's some people parking in front of like my house.
Right.
And I think the idea is this island is getting a lot of visitors coming from like out of town.
The tourism, yeah.
Yeah, for this sort of like summer period. And yeah, I love like you're saying, we have the setup of the smorgasbord and Brody looking around, obviously trying to like obviously concerned. The girl's screaming like sort of like this like
right. Yeah, no music here or anything. It's just you and the crowd and Brody.
Yeah. And then we get the very loud sort of like splashing,
Yeah, well, like we see the dog stick floating in the water.
for sure.
I had forgotten the dog got eaten,
what the
which
guy
really
says-
bums me out.
What the guy says to him, by the way, is we all know we know all about you, Chief. You don't go in the water,
Right.
do you?
I was gonna mention
Which
this
sets
too.
up his
He doesn't like to swim. He's scared of the water.
his hydrophobia, which I think is actually, I don't know if this is correct, but I believe was a movie thing, not in the book. Like it was a decision to give the characters a little bit more depth.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Because apparently Spielberg felt like a lot of Peter Benchley's characters were really unlikable.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that. Because everyone does kind of everyone does have shades of gray around them, which I really love. Like even Hooper is kind of pretentious.
Shades
and
of green, gray, and blue, perhaps.
Quint is an insane person. Brody, very likable. Like we said, he also kind of messes up. Like he doesn't grab responsibility like he should. Like he's flawed, I guess. And but I mean, probably still the most like relatable character.
Yeah, for sure. They feel real. I mean, Quint feels like a bit of a meme, but at the same time, like we've all met someone like that.
Yeah,
right?
and
like,
I mean, he has insane PTSD, so like this is an unwell person.
Yeah, for sure. Like the dog's name is Tippet, and we do hear him saying, Tippet, and it is great. Like the implied tragedy is pretty good. We get that sort of like the Jaws theme.
Underwater shot of the kid, and I love the again like such a great use of this theme where it's building up as it comes up towards the kid, and then just cuts to like a shot from the beach,
like a wide shot of just a huge thing.
Yeah,
like,
and the music cuts out, and it's just blood, just gushes like a geyser of blood as the kid gets grabbed by the shark. Horrifying, and it's like. It's just such an effective way to show this sequence where, like, because it takes, like, when it's underneath him and it's the shark about to grab him with the music, it's very cinematic. It feels like you're watching a movie. And then when it cuts to just the kid getting eaten, like, no, this is real life. This is what you would see if you were sitting on the beach and a kid got attacked by a shark.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of like you see the like huge figure and then like this sort of like, and then the big like explosion of the blood. And again, that red sort of coming in I think that I was kind of thinking something I like as a visual theme is blood sort of like into water, like the release of the red,
Yeah.
and it's almost sort of like I thought of it as like the corruption of like this like sort of
Purity, like.
well, like the ocean is like this like the womb of existence in a way
Okay, yeah.
for Earth, right? I mean,
I hear you. Yeah.
I mean, what? That's where we came from. Like, that's what like sustains life on Earth, right? So, it is like this life-giving force, but it is also like harsh,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so maybe not a corruption, but like a visual representation of like this is like this just is, right? Because nature, not good, not bad. It just is, right?
Right.
But there's something so powerful about those shots of, and there's gonna be a really great one later on where we really get the like fucking like blood like sort of like slowly dispersing
Right.
throughout the water. And of course, with the fucking shot of the kid, we get the famous
right.
shot, the vertigo shot.
Vertigo shot. Yeah.
The vertigo shot, which for those of you who haven't heard about this a million times, the way it's executed is you take the camera, you move back, you pull out, which is a physical movement, and then you use a camera zoom into the subject. And what's interesting as well is like zoom lenses aren't often used in filmmaking.
And for those who don't remember, this is the shot of Brody seeing the kid getting eaten.
the famous shot,
Yeah.
the most famous shot from this movie, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Zoom lenses aren't typically used in filmmaking. They use what are called prime or fixed lenses. So the use is very particular here. And what it does is it's sort of like at different like zoom places, like different lenses, you know, people's faces look different. So what you're doing with that shot is like you're sort of like morphing the background and his face, and it really gives this sense, as it does in Vertigo, of like the world like going akimbo, like diving fully into the unknown.
Yeah. Well,
I think this is the
vertigo.
This is the threshold like fully crossed moment, right?
Yeah.
Like there, like we know there's something going on, but we haven't seen somebody like attacked.
Well, this is
like,
him
in this
seeing
way.
with his own eyes, him failing his responsibility.
Yeah.
Where now a little child is dead because he didn't act fast enough.
And like Mrs. Kittner, you know, like the despair on her face.
Oh, so sad. Yeah.
And the like bloody, deflated thing.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of this,
Yeah.
like just like sort of washed up on the beach, like as the waves slowly lap on it.
Such good symbolism of just like, the innocent child's play into just
Also,
tragedy.
summer's over, dude. Like, it's kind of like what I got from it as well. Like,
the fun's over.
Forget about it. Yeah. At this point, trying to keep the beaches open is
But it's
insane.
I love how long this drags out, right? Again, the tension of this, and it's like I was gonna get into this later, but good as time as any I would get, I guess, is one of the things I absolutely love about this film is that it has such a strange structure. Like if you were trying to split this into a 3-act movie, it's kind of hard because it's almost like the first half has its own 3 acts, like its own beginning, middle, and end, and then the second half almost has 3 acts. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were to make it into 3 acts, would the first act end when they start going after the shark? Is it before that?
I think there's this sort of like false shark second act, like beach reopen, and then I feel like the third act is of course like the conclusion. Where would the first transition into the second? Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I, despite, you know, like really being into like script writing and stuff, it's not something that I like particularly like
Focus on
and
very
much.
I do sometimes more and sometimes less, but I was just thinking about, because this movie has such a, I guess what it comes down to is I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and I was watching this first half like, oh man, I love this section so much. Will the second section like hold up as strongly as the first section, because they are so different? Like one is a character study, one is more of just like this slow building mystery on the island, right? And yeah, it just got me thinking about how unusual it is to have almost like 2 completely different vibes of a movie. in one movie.
Yeah, I don't like I see what you mean, but I don't like it doesn't feel like it feels all of the same story.
Yeah, it definitely it's all
Like
building into one another.
like
Just
and
like
like I totally get what you mean about it being like two different things where we have like but I feel like even the first half is like this like sort of I feel like setting up there's a lot being like set up to be able to like examine these people more in like the second
right.
half.
Well, but even like the how late Hooper and Quint come into it is
Yeah,
unusual
for sure.
like being such like for the second half being the three main characters. It's like we really don't get to know them very much until like much later than you would than usual. It's just like unusual, I guess is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think when I was watching it, I was like, I think I was definitely struck. I remember being struck by that. I also like was struck by how quickly Quint is introduced because I did remember that there's this sort of like second half thing. Dude, it's a 2-act film, dude. That's what
like
it is.
that's kind of how it feels like. It's interesting.
I think that like despite the like separate locations and like the constrainment of like being to like 3 people, it's still like when I'm thinking about it in my mind, I do feel like first part, middle, and last part. And I mean that's of course like what a revolutionary way to look at something. But like it does like I do feel like there's a lot of this sort of like fun and games, road of trials shit that's going on through the middle. And yeah, I guess I would almost feel like the first part on the island is like the first 2 acts, and then the last part is like this long third
super
act.
long epic act. Yeah, I could kind of see that too. That's probably if you were gonna have to nail it down. That's probably into a 3-act. That's probably how you do it. But yeah, it's just interesting stuff. We have a $3,000 bounty on the shark, and I meant to look this up. I'll look this up in a second. How much that would be now. Because people really are hyped about this $3,000, as we'll be finding soon. I have the mayor. He's wearing, it's like kind of beige, but it's about as yellow of a beige jacket as you could wear. So again, like, I don't know, that stood out to me that it's like warning, danger. And then there's the lady who is kind of the, like.
She owns like a motel.
Right, and she's kind of like in the center of the audience, kind of the voice of the people.
She's wearing like a yellow dress.
Yeah, I think it's a yellow like sweater underneath whatever she has on. But yeah, stood out to me a lot.
I did love that the sort of like business owners that are discussing like the implications, and I do like that she is really much like really kind of like cut to the fucking chase. Are we closing the beaches or are we not?
Right, and the guy makes a joke about like, will the money be in cash or check? And she's like, I didn't think that was funny at all.
I don't think that's funny.
And I love that Brody is like a little anxious, a little nervous here, talking to the crowd. Like it's like one of those very small things you didn't need to add in. He could be confident here. But he is very nervous, and it does play very well into how he, like the trepidation he has around his responsibilities and his character arc here. But he's like stumbling over his words a little bit when he's talking. I think
it's also showing how like
torn up or like shocked he is.
No, sure, yes, that as well. But also like how, like he's a cop, like he's not
a public speaker.
No.
Yeah.
Not that. He's a cop. He's not a shark hunter, Gotcha. This is out of the realm of his like knowledge. And I mean, he even says, I'm in charge of public safety. Like, and there is that sort of like uncertainness to it because it is like, dude, like how the fuck, and they have to call in like experts, of course, but like, I just imagine being in this sort of position and something comes across your desk where you're like, if it's a person, I just arrest him. This is a fucking shark like that to me, especially coming from like the city and stuff, that just seems kind of like unfathomable.
Yeah, and it's his first summer here, and his first like big job is basically to shut down the entire city's economy.
Yeah. Only 24 hours, and then you hear somebody yell out in the background, 24 hours is like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And what I love is that when you walk into the town hall, it is this verge of panic. Like, you
Right.
can feel it. There's that anxiety there. And then when they say the beaches are closed, boom, everyone freaks the fuck out.
And Brody's like, I didn't agree to 24 hours. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he's like, no, because he says, yes, we're closing the beaches. And the mayor interrupts and says, only 24 hours.
Yeah.
And they're still freaking out about it being 24 hours. The nails on the chalkboard,
Iconic.
yeah, I mean, sure.
I mean, it's been memed a lot. Like,
Yeah, such a wild choice. I don't. Maybe my least favorite part of the speech, but I mean, I guess
it works. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, it works in drawing people's attention. He also I assume he drew a picture of a shark eating a little boy. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's really
This
funny.
guy's so insensitive, dude.
Yeah, he is. I love his whole speech here is really good, though. I didn't get down too much of it, but just the opening of it. You all know what I do for a living. And he's just looking around, like, basically sizing up the crowd. I love how he just, like, completely takes the power from this situation.
Yeah, I do like Robert Shaw is amazing in this. I think
He really is.
the most sort of standout performance of like, oh yeah, you like leave the theater and you want to do his like voice.
Oh, yeah.
I also love how he's like, I'll find him for 3, but I'll catch him for 10.
Yeah.
And then he says stuff like, he's like, you want to play it cheap and be on welfare through the winter.
Yeah,
Again,
good
reinforcing
line.
this idea that it's very like economically motivated.
And he doesn't want anyone to come with him.
No
He says,
volunteers, no mates. Too many captains on this
yeah,
island.
that's what I was going to say.
Which
I
is
love
a
that.
great line. Really
Yeah.
like showing everyone's got an opinion. That's something too in this movie that it's just sort of clicked with me. The too many captains on this island, like everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got like a way they think that things should be.
Right.
And then like Brody is just throughout the movie having to contend with everyone kind of being like, well, I'm going to do it my way. you
Right,
know?
yeah, because even in the second half, he is very much the most, like, I guess, yeah, fish out of water situation of where the other two are really the ones who have experience here, and he's kind of like,
More
in
like
the way. He feels like he's in the way, and he
More
kind of
like
is
a
in the way
land
sometimes.
animal in the water, really.
Yeah, totally. And the slow push in on Quint when he's giving the speech too, I just thought it was like such a I just felt the weight of this scene, the power of this scene. Like, again, just like extremely well executed. Like, it could just be done so much more boring.
Yeah, it's a fun scene. He seems like he's having so much fun playing this character.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
Beach closed.
Yeah, they're putting up the signs.
I do like the very sudden cut to like
Yeah.
the sign being hammered in, and then we get these insert shots of like different like pages of
Sharks.
like shark knowledge, and
Yeah.
Brody, is trying to get to know his adversary,
Yeah.
reinforcing this thing. He has no idea how to deal with them.
Yeah, I love how like freaked out he's just getting about the idea of sharks, and like when his wife comes up and he like touches him, he like jumps and like scares her.
Yeah, she startles him and he startles her. It is also the sort of this. What's interesting about this, and it's not. I don't think the commentary is meant to be there, because this film doesn't really take the viewpoint that sharks are like harmless or anything like that. This movie really has the viewpoint of like sharks are super dangerous.
Yeah, well, that's
and they
been a
love
big-
eating people. But like with this whole she startles him, he startles her thing, it is this sort of thing of like in nature where it's like they're really more scared of us than you think, like, and they're actually like kind of like harmless. They don't really want to like eat you. But again, I don't think that commentary is on purpose. But it's also very cute, like the way that she gets startled and then she like giggles.
Yeah, and he's just talking about like we don't even know how long these things have been alive for, like 2,000 or 3,000 years or whatever, and just setting up this again kind of like mystery and unknown. Because I think you're right, like they do kind of set up the shark in this deadly. This feels like an anomaly in terms of just like this is way smarter, way bigger, and way more cruel intentioned than like sharks you're gonna run into, right? Like it does kind of set this thing up as like a force of nature. Like it has some of the Moby Dick vibes to it.
Yeah, I would say less a force of nature, more just like an evil sort, or because that it is like almost wants to, like it has like cruel intentions.
Right, and that has been a big critique of this movie from like activists and stuff. Is just like how much it's turned like the human consciousness against sharks in general,
Yeah.
which is probably true. There is probably just like a lot of hate towards sharks because of this movie, or fear of sharks.
Hey man, I love sharks.
I think they're awesome. I'm scared of them though.
She's very cute too. I love how she says want to get drunk and fool around. Like
Yeah.
she's a really great character. I like her as the wife. She really feels like she like centers him.
Yeah, she's great.
Emotionally. And then I really love how like she's very chill. You know, Michael loves his new boat, and then he's like, "What the fuck?" And like he could like
his
bust
birthday tomorrow.
out there, and like he's like, "No, like get out of there." And then she's looking at the boat, at the like picture of the shark attacking the boat, and then she immediately freaks out, which is some good like sort of like comedy.
Yeah.
That feels like something perhaps like Carl Gottlieb added to the script, you know.
Absolutely.
And during this part, the ocean is like so shiny and beautiful in the background, which is a big part of this movie, right? Is like beauty and like the danger under the beauty, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Just like right under the surface, there is this like man eater.
100%. Yeah, it just the because the shark has not been seen, and because it's under the water, it just every time you see the water, there's tension to it, and we follow this up with a great tension building scene.
Yeah, Den-Herder and Charlie in the rowboat. There's the cool shots of the chain and the hook and the holiday roast.
Yeah, I love that they're using his wife's roast.
And he does say, you know, $3,000 buys an awful lot of roast. And we get some more of like Brody flipping through Shark Book again. And now he's looking at shark bites, which is really foreshadowing this sort of like next scene in a way.
Yeah. And we get we get the wounds, we get the teeth, we get the size. Like it's just really setting this up as this menacing
gruesome
adversary.
Pretty gruesome.
It is.
This whole sequence with the dock being ripped off.
I love it.
And the way it like flips.
Yeah.
Again, great visual storytelling.
Yeah.
The implication of the like monster without showing it.
Yeah. And
they get away too, which I think is a good touch here too.
And just the intensity of the music, like again, it's so good because it breaks the dock, and then you just slowly hear it as it fades in, dun 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 dun, and it turns around and starts coming. He's trying to get out of the ocean. It's just like such like pitch perfect tension building.
The way he says to him too, "Trust me, Charlie, don't look back, just keep swimming." Oh, I love that. It was really good. Like, what a good friend, you know? And at the beginning of that, like when they're introduced, he says like, "We should just go home, right?" And then at the end, he goes, "Can we go home now?"
Yeah,
and some good lighthearted sort of comedy.
Right, and it totally breaks that tension. Again, the music just like very subtly, perfectly fades out as soon as he gets out. But again, it's always fades. It's never like these like there are direct cuts, but like. It's just, the danger being the theme is so good.
I think it's because of the flow, right? It is like this sort of sine wave of like tension and release. And I think the fading really feeds into that. It's very helpful. Because this movie, it has such a good flow. I would say it's almost imperceptible, like, because it just feels so sort of natural, like the build and the release, and how like the like peaks become higher and higher, and the release becomes more and more satisfying until like that sort of like final culmination.
Totally.
Cut to this fucking sign, Harbor Master Frank Silva. The man who walks out is the most stereotypical looking sailor dude. He has a pipe in his mouth. He's got like the hat. But then he also has a bunch of snacks in his arm, and it's kind of like smiling. And in my head, I was like, he just seems very stoner coded, like in this moment. And he just stood out to me so much because it's the start of the scene, you know, it's just like Harbor Master, like pan down to like the door. He walks out and he's looking like Popeye. Just smoked a blunt, you know. Anyway, I thought he was great. It never comes back. It's just an interesting little guy. Then we have Hooper arriving while sort of like Hendrix is telling Brody what happened. There's so much overlapping dialogue.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Brody's trying to fucking, you know, manage all the fishermen that are trying to go after the shark. We see like
Hooper tries to tell these guys they're overloading the boat. We get
you're all gonna die.
Yeah,
these people have dynamite and shit too.
Yeah,
it's insane.
So funny. But the thing we were talking about of just like being the outsider, right? He tells them to get off the boat. They're like, "What do you know?" And then he's like, "Well, do you guys know where I can find a hotel?" And they're like, "Yeah, just keep walking, into the ocean." And you're like, haha, you're all gonna die.
Just keep walking straight.
Pretty funny. Yeah, and this is when they confirm there's just 2 cops in this town, and they're not getting any backup until the 4th of July. And the deputy is like, I don't know what to do. And Brody's
Yeah.
like, well, like this is all we got, bud.
Go talk to your people. I love him throwing the fucking coins at the window to get his attention. It's like, dude, go talk to your people, man. And then Hendrix is like, they're not my people. Haven't you seen all the license plates? They're from all over New England.
Which is a great touch, yeah.
Yeah. And we get Brody and Hooper like meeting,
and I love
the relief on his face.
Yes, when he realizes that Hooper's the professional. Yeah, like someone else, please, with some expertise, tell me what I need to do here. And I just love their quick chemistry. Like they have a great relationship in this movie, and they very much like have this immediate mutual respect for each other.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about like isolation and loneliness in films, but we don't really comment on like the reversal, the moment of connection.
Yeah.
And I think like poo on us for that, dude. Like we should talk about that more, because this is really sort of like a bromance, you know, that is being sort of like
bromance between these two. Yeah.
And honestly, by the end of it, like before he dies, the 3 of them, you're just like,
yeah.
You know, there's this, but like,
well, that's so much about what the second half is about, right? Is respect, right? Quint doesn't respect either of them really, especially not Hooper. And you know, Hooper values his own like self the most. He recognizes Brody is kind of out of his element here.
Yeah.
But by the end, yes, they're all on the same page. We're in this together. We'll survive this. Let's do this.
And I think this connection is really what makes the ending feel like such a great payoff. You know,
100%. Yeah. I just wrote LOL, all the people trying to kill the sharks.
All the shark hunters, it's just absolute
really making
chaos,
people look like idiots here, but I could totally see it going down like this.
These dudes are fucking
They're
wild.
throwing dynamite like next to each other.
Yeah, these dudes are so wild. But this is fun. This must have been a fun scene to like film and get a bunch of people in on it. It was good. It's good stuff. Some nice. It's weird, like, because it is like so aggressive, but it's very funny. You know, just like how excited they all are to make $3,000.
Yeah, it's just like a nice break in the tension of it too. Yeah,
especially with the next scene that's coming up, which is Hooper doing an autopsy with Chrissy. It's
oof.
Yeah, it's heavy, and I love how much Richard Dreyfuss is really like putting it there for us. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say his performance is the scene basically. Again, like just. You don't need to see what the body looks like to because your imagination is doing the work for you through his acting, and you're just like you can imagine even worse than they could show you basically.
Yeah, and this is like a case where he is acting to the kind of film that he's in, where I think like he's like
he's playing it up a bit.
Yeah, he is for sure. I feel like it's a choice, right?
Yeah.
To be like I need like the back rows to like see. You know, how gruesome this really is. And I love how he's not just that, he's juggling 2 different motivations, which is like the like utter horror that he's presented with, you know, this cold indifference of the universe, like, and how it can mutilate a body,
right?
And the disregard for human life, in the like with putting profit over human life, right?
Yeah.
Because you see the way he's like looking at Brody, and he's like, you know, boating accident, like he's so fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
And I even like he's like, did you not contact the Coast Guard? And like Brody tries to light a cigarette. He's like, do not smoke in here.
Right.
And we also get this like Hooper like in the first sort of scene, like kind of like a like comedic relief, but like no, this guy is serious about like what he does. He knows what he's doing, and he is like a strong-willed guy, like who has a point of view.
Yeah, no, he's a great character, very like real, but also like everyone's a little larger than life. I think in a way that feels very fun and satisfying.
For sure.
Like in a way, I would say less so than like a Tarantino movie, but like that feels like its own world, kind of like this. While feeling grounded, also feels like its own world.
For sure, absolutely. It feels like these sort of like slightly broader interpretations. Again, playing to the back, right to the back row, as people say.
Totally, yeah. And I love that. I mean, it's a movie. It's fun, as we say. Like that's the number one goal of a movie: be entertaining. And yeah, I love like his like we said, his performance here, where he really takes it all in at once, and then he collects himself. He asks for a glass of water, and I thought it was like really like a good example of great exposition of him explaining to his recording exactly what the wounds are and breaking down what type of shark it is and all that. I thought all of that was
Yeah.
just like super effective.
I think, okay, he does ask for some water, but I believe he says, "Can I get a little bit of womb of life? A glass of womb of life?"
Does he?
No.
Oh,
That's just a callback to earlier when I
sorry.
called the ocean the womb of life. It's okay. It's whatever.
No, great joke. Great joke.
Thank you. I was about to start interviewing replacements. Not for you, for me. To make you laugh.
Oh, baby, you always make me laugh.
And then we get the shark hunters have caught a shark. Love this too. In the,
Oh, wait, real quick. There's one more line. It's the end of the scene. I did think this was like, in terms of over the top, this is the cheesiest line. He says, it wasn't, he's saying all the things the shark wasn't, and he's like,
Yeah.
It wasn't Jack the Ripper. And then he throws water on his face, and he looks up at the camera, and he says, it was a shark. And then it cuts. Little much, but I like it.
Yeah, for sure. Again, if I was gonna, I think I could do this movie better.
Holy shit.
Let's go back. Let's make it. I'm
You
gonna
should
use
write
a
a letter
real.
to Spielberg.
I'm gonna make a real. I'm
We
gonna use a
demand
real
remake.
shark. I'm gonna use a real shark for this one. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, no, I do agree. Like that. Again, sometimes when you go broad, it goes a little too broad.
That's one of the few ones that struck me as a little cheesy. Like, I think the tone is pretty much pitch
Yeah, there's
perfect
some
for the
other
most part.
people who aren't the main characters whose performances you're like, it feels very like 1970s filmmaking, which again is such a vibe that
Yeah.
like I don't really have a problem with it. Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, we pulled this guy out of like the camera department to like sit in and like just like read this one line, and he doesn't do a great job, but he doesn't do a horrible job,
Totally.
But yes, the shark hunters, they've caught a shark. Always love a like. This happens in so many movies, problem solved, probably like it. I feel like it happens probably like in most movies, right? Where you have like a big sort of central conflict,
Yeah.
like or with like a monster or something
Well,
like
even
that.
like we did Tremors recently, where the first one dies. And
Yeah,
they're
and-
like, oh, we got him.
Yeah.
And oh no, there's 3 more.
Yes,
Uh-oh.
but this I think it's less about that and more about the like prolonged sort of like
Yeah.
oh yeah, we figured it out, right? Because they do kind of like tease this out for like a few scenes.
Well, Brody really wants to believe they got it. And-
Yeah.
And so does everyone, right?
I mean, this could potentially be sort of like a first act end marker.
Yeah, I would say I want a more like climactic scene, right? Like, it doesn't feel
Well,
climactic.
dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, story structure doesn't care about what you want.
Apparently not.
Just like the universe doesn't care about what you want.
Well, speaking of lines that are just a little goofy, actually, this next part where Cooper's saying they got or he's saying what kind of shark it is. He's like, it's a tiger shark, and the guy goes, "Oh, what?" It's
Yeah.
like, what? What is that delivery?
Yeah. Some of those bit parts,
It's
very,
funny,
very
though.
silly.
Charming, I would say.
And as I was saying, Carl Gottlieb is the guy who's like, "Come on, guys, I need a picture for the paper."
Right.
And I love them trying to take the picture, and Hooper is like measuring the mouth, right?
And you also got Quint in the background. He's like, when they're taking the picture, he's like on the boat, just like shaking his head. I think he knows that.
No,
that's
he definitely does. Yeah, he's
it's not the
laughing
right
in the
one.
distance. He knows it's too small.
Yeah.
I also, you see the mayor is super stoked. Brody is so happy, right? And then the whole like sort of like bite radius.
Yes, that's the thing that he's like. He's not taking him super seriously. He's like, "Oh, come on, it's a shark," and then he's like, "But the bite radius doesn't match."
Yeah.
And that's when Brody starts listening, and he's like, "Oh crap!" And the mayor also overhears around this point.
Yes. And so he's like, let's just cut it open because their digestive system is slow. And I kind of love that the mayor appeals to like propriety and is like, we don't want a dead boy flopping out on the dock here. And I don't think that is his actual motivation. I think it's just the quick thinking of like,
Yeah, I found it a
Fuck.
little disingenuous.
Oh, for sure.
Because of course they're not gonna do it right there.
for sure.
Yeah.
It felt manipulative, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And then we get Mrs. Kittner slapping Brody.
Dude, this scene hit me.
And it is great how it is the double punch, right? Because if it was just him with the dumb smile on his face, like, oh, we caught the shark and she slapped him, like, that would be one thing. But, like, the presentation to him of, like, this might not be the shark, doubt planted, then him being told that he, fucked up. He shirked his as we love to say, shirked his responsibility.
Right. Well, we talk about the failing your trials, right?
Yeah.
And how important that can be to a character arc.
And like I feel like it would be so easy to be like, fuck Mrs. Kittner, you know? But no, dude,
No,
she's right.
And her performance, like, again, this is one of the few times I think I've teared up during this is our 10th episode,
No.
unless the Dune one gets split into two.
No, this is our 9th. This is our 10th. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I labeled the file wrong. Okay, we have to start over.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome back.
Take 2.
Yeah, no, her performance here just really struck me. And I think what struck, and it was Brody's as well, like the way, because it's the tragedy of her sorrow, but the understanding guilt and weight that Brody feels.
He's
in the
got
scene.
2 kids, you know?
And it's just like, I felt for both of them a lot, and I thought it was really powerful and well done.
Yeah, he looks devastated.
And she says, you knew there was a shark out there. You knew all those things, but my boy is still dead.
Yeah.
And I love that the mayor says to her, or says to Brody afterwards, she's wrong. And Brody says, no, she's not. And
Yeah.
he, like, walks
he's
away.
He's trying to reassure her. Yeah.
Pitch perfect, like, emotional. And I guess that's another thing with Spielberg, is like he's so good at just like keeping the heart of all the movies, or like at least most of the movies. I haven't seen all his movies. Just like this, like it really, if they feel very human, they feel like very human movies.
Yeah, I think to the point where people have leveled the criticism that, like, you know, he can be a little
campy.
I was gonna say a little corny. It can
Yeah.
be a little what's the word that I'm trying to think of? There's this word that people use that means like overly sweet. That I feel like
I could see that. Yeah.
that happens with him.
I probably do have that criticism of some movies, but I feel like he walks that line perfectly in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I think there's a really cool compositional thing happening as well in this movie, where there's lots of shots of big crowds of people observing like a smaller group of people talking. So like everyone is staring at Mrs. Kittner and Brody during this. And it's really cool cuz like they're in the foreground and you see everyone watching, like hanging on every word. And it really makes it feel something about like that really adds to like the town,
right?
Like, and sort of like the social sort of context for which we're existing in, you know?
Right. And adding to the bromance, Hooper, like they really hold on like Hooper's reaction to this whole thing and watching how Brody took responsibility for it and like his sympathy for him. And I thought, yeah, just like great visual storytelling of this, developing bromance.
Yeah. I like that we get some levity in the next shot because we have Brody at the dinner table,
Yeah,
obviously still
cute.
devastated, but his youngest son is imitating all of his mannerisms, and then Brody kind of starts playing with him. And I love the line, you know, give us a kiss, and the kid's like, why? And he says, because I need it. And it's very cute, and I feel like we really don't see enough of this in films, like physical like touch, like expression of love through a physical affection between father and son.
Yeah.
And it was
thinking
really
about that too,
really
actually.
refreshing to see it. And you know, me existing in this world that we exist in and being aware of context, I was immediately like thinking about like, oh, so many people would. I think it's uncomfortable, you know, like grown men and like
Little boys.
and little boys, like there's so much discomfort and like wariness around that, and it is really unfortunate.
Yeah, no, that's a great take.
But
yeah,
I just love, it's just like,
it's a very sweet scene.
Like, yeah, he gives him a kiss on the cheek, and it's so cute and so innocent, and you can really tell like it like brings him some warmth, right?
Yeah, I mean he's so down on himself. This is kind of his lowest moment in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way it sort of leads into the next sort of part where like
Cooper arrives.
yes, and he says, I'd like to talk to your husband, and she says, Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I like that too. I just love his vibe here. He comes with a suit
And he has two bottles
of
of
wine,
one red and white.
because he didn't know what they were gonna serve. He's such a fun character.
And she looks stoked that he brought wine, you know.
Yeah, and I love. He asks Brody, "How was your day?" And Brody just looks at him. And they both just start laughing.
Yeah,
like, again, just great.
Which is a great setup too for the ending.
Right.
And I think it is like it has so much more
good call.
weight at the end, right?
That's a really good point.
And I do love that. There's this understanding, like unspoken understanding between them that I think is like shot well.
Totally. And Hooper immediately starts eating their food.
Yeah, no, well he's like, "Are you gonna eat this? Is anyone eating this?" And he's
Yeah.
like, just like takes it. And she asks him, "You're in sharks."
Yeah.
And they both start laughing and they're going kind of back and forth while fucking Brody just pops the wine open. He's like, "You want to let that breathe?"
He like
No.
fills the glass to
He
the
pours
brim,
himself a pint glass of wine and gives them the other two, the little like glasses.
That's really funny.
And then this is like a small bit, the whole like you'll be the only rational man left because
yeah.
he's going on an expedition, right?
Yeah.
On the Aurora.
Yeah, and I noticed some great foreshadowing I didn't never notice before here, where Hooper talks about how he fell in love with sharks, and he said that a shark ate his boat, and he saw it, and he had to swim back to the beach.
Yeah.
Which is the end of the movie, which
Yeah,
is
exactly,
just
yeah.
awesome. Love that.
It is really good. It also like kind of drew a connection to me between him and Brody's eldest son, you know? I think it draws a connection between the two of them because you see the kid on like the boat too. I think it kind of like, I don't know, there's that sort of furthering of you know, it's not really anything, but I did.
Well, it's the core of that family feeling, and just how we're all connected, and that this is a human story against a shark. Against the force of nature.
And we do finally get it said, like stated clearly, that Brody is scared of water and boats.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about how when they go on the ferry, he stays in there. And she says, like, I think there's like a medical name for it. And he says, drowning.
Yeah. And I like here that we have Brody's been basically silent through this whole scene. He's just kind of listening to them banter. But then when he starts talking, you can tell he's been doing his research. And he's talking about territoriality, I think it was called.
He's asking about different shark facts and like how they hunt.
Yeah, and Hooper's like, okay, like that again, taking it more serious. This is a movie about respect a lot, and I think like Hooper more and more is just like, you know, taking Brody's character in and being like, okay, this is a responsible, like, dutiful person.
Yeah, and we have let's have another drink and cut the shark open.
I can do anything. I'm the chief of police. Great line.
And the shark getting cut open, there's some really good comedy, like the whole fish, like that he like throws out. And then I love how he says, "Oh yeah, as I suspected, it came up through the Gulf and Southern waters." And we're like, "You're like, how the fuck does he know that?" And then he throws the Louisiana plate.
Yeah, pretty funny.
And he also like Hooper is immediately sort of like, let's go look for him right now. Like this is when he like hunts. And Brody's like, I'm not drunk enough to do that to go on a boat right now.
Yeah, that's so funny. And then we cut to them on the boat, and we get the whole in Amity, one man can make a difference. Yeah, very powerful line.
And this is also where we find out Hooper is rich. That's how he can afford all of this.
Yep.
And he also says to him, the thing about being a man who's scared of water living on an island. And he says, it's only an island when you look at it from the water.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is a deceptively like philosophical statement.
Yeah, I like it too. Because, he's saying, like, why would they pick a guy like you if you're just like a rich boy? Or basically is what Brody's implying to him. And he's like, well, why would a guy who doesn't like to swim live on an island? Good stuff.
Not just a guy who doesn't like to swim. A guy who's terrified of the water.
Yeah.
Which is something like if you were really gonna try and like level like a complaint, something that like at a certain point just kind of like
isn't a big deal. Yeah. No, that's fair. They find the empty boat. Very creepy. Kind of setting up the unknown again here. Missing fisherman.
Yeah, the guy with that's missing the eye.
Yeah. And
I will say that like I feel like now looking at that I am like, yeah, that's obviously like not a real dead person.
Right.
Not like a huge criticism, but you know.
Oh yeah. It stood out to me a little bit, but yeah, it's still like good jump scare moment. I just the soundtrack during this whole sequence, like while they're pulling up, it like again Spielberg or not Spielberg, John Williams telling his own story here. Like it starts kind of like mysterious and playful, and then like gets more tense, and then like gets like horrifying with the jump scare, and it's just all like it's just a theme that is flowing with the movie
Yeah.
versus just like you know your typical theme that plays and then stops or something.
It's also really playing with the cinema, like the way the cinematography is sort of
Yeah.
working with the spotlight moving around. Like it really feels like the light and the song, like and the music are working in conjunction in this scene. Also, I love that our first idea of it, well, our second idea of its scale is really that tooth, right? Because we saw the huge figure off in the distance when Alex Kittner gets eaten, but now we see this tooth.
Yeah.
And it's huge. It's like the size of his hand.
Right. Yeah. He says the size of a shot glass. I was like, that's a pretty big shot glass. Yeah. And they confirm here. Well, like we cut to them talking to the mayor basically, and they're saying, yeah, it's a great white. So we get like confirmation there.
And speaking of like color palette, big wides, we have this awesome shot of like the vast ocean behind them, and it is sort of like so vast. I love that, like as they're talking about these sort of human matters, there is just like that reminder behind them, like that nature is so much larger than us.
Yeah, love that. Again, everyone like shouting over each other as Hooper and Brody are both just kind of shouting at the mayor.
Yeah. Like the vandalism on the sign
Me
too.
too, yeah.
And just like how they walk towards it, like it doesn't start with it. Like we sort of like the camera moves so that we can eventually see it.
Yeah, just a very like playful shot too, and like Hooper, and it's like effective for the scene because like Hooper says like that is to scale what they drew up there. Like that is what we're dealing with here, but it's also just like so
very silly. Yeah,
yeah, very silly.
And we do get the line, "We rely on the summer people,"
right.
like, and Brody's saying, "Well, we could save August," and the mayor's like, "What the fuck? No, tomorrow's 4th of July, bro.
Yeah,
fuck August."
And importantly, Hooper dropped the tooth when he was scared, and so the mayor is using that like, oh, so like you have the tooth.
I also really like that the mayor, again thinking quickly on his feet, is like, "Oh, you're just trying to use this to get into National Geographic."
Yeah, I was gonna say this is our second National Geographic reference.
This movie was there's a special thanks at the end to National Geographic.
Oh, really? Wow, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Then we get this big sequence of the tourists arriving.
So many people arriving.
Yeah,
so much overlapping dialogue.
Like some very playful music here.
And this is how quickly the whole thing about him leaving to go on the Aurora ends.
Yeah.
Because Hooper's on the phone saying to some doctor, he's like, "Why would I go to Brisbane when I got a great white here?"
Yeah, good stuff. I like that we see when they're kind of going to the beach, we see a Killer Shark arcade game.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of like a fun, small, random thing. Like, I didn't know that was I wonder if that was like a popular arcade game at the time or something super niche that they found for it,
Yeah, perhaps. It's also just like that the way the shark like like is like scaring you, playing with those like false jump scares,
Totally. Yeah, it could even be like something they made for the movie. That'd be fun.
Perhaps. That would have cost like $5 million back then.
Oh yeah, I did look it up. It's about $17,000 now for a $3,000 reward. So not crazy, but I could see like
I mean, dude,
a bunch of guys with boats.
I might go hunt a shark for $3,000 these days, dude.
Fair enough.
Tariffs? Are you kidding me, dude?
I love the little like the news report right here.
And that again is the guy who wrote the book.
I love that. That's amazing. His delivery is great. He really comes across as a news guy. And his whole line here: "A cloud hangs over Amity, a cloud in the shape of a killer shark." It's just like perfect. I love it.
Yeah. And then we get the mayor looking nervous. He mumbles something to himself, and like I can't really like read his lips, and I think it's just sort of showing like his nervousness is really
and nobody's in the water yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's frustrated
and he
by
goes
this.
up to the guy. He says like, "Why aren't you going in? nobody's going in. And he makes this dude get in the
With his
water.
family.
And they look so terrified.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is they look so terrified, but everyone sees it and starts getting into the water.
And again, with the yellow, they got the yellow rafts they're bringing in with them.
And this is a great sort of like tension ratcheting, like in a visual sense, where we have like the empty water and it's like, okay, like the shark can't get to you on the land. And then like a small group of people, more people, more
This is
people, more
amazing
people.
sequence. This feels like an end of Act 1 sequence to me, just like this big climactic set piece where Brody's family's on the line.
Yeah.
Oh, the shot of the helicopter, like we get a POV of while it's like flying above the beach, and then you just see like for a second like through like next to the pilot as he's looking down at the beach. I thought that was a really awesome shot.
And then we have Brody talking to his son. You know, he's like talking about like, will you take the like boat in the pond? And kid's like, it's for old ladies. And he's like, come on, do it for me. And it's cool that the kid like, okay. And then I like that like in that part, like also the wife Ellen says, I've got Sean, which is their younger son. It immediately cuts to a shot of Sean cuts to a shot of Sean running off with Michael. And I was like, immediately is it like Ellen doesn't have Sean, which is weird because like I said, she's a good character, but like I was like, that's such a interesting choice. Is that are you trying to increase the tension? You know,
Yeah.
I don't think
the
the idea is to make her seem incompetent.
No,
but
I think it was just her not completely 100% taking the situation seriously with just like some kid shenanigans, like the older brother, you know, grabbed him and ran off with him, and that's ramping up the tension.
We start getting these underwater shots. I love the sound design with all the underwater stuff. It sounds great.
Yeah.
And I had a note where I was looking at all of the bodies, and it's kind of like looking like a bit of a buffet.
It sure is, yeah. Oh, yeah, I love the mayor on the news. Amity, as you know, means friendship.
Yeah.
So
This is so
perfect.
funny.
It's
Yeah.
so cheesy.
It's
I
super
love it.
cheesy. Then we get the fake out with we've got the fin and the lady freaking out. And then there's the whistle from the lifeguard. And this is a really quick, like, sort of sequence that I like a lot.
Yeah.
I really love the shot of all the binoculars going up, which
Yeah.
kind of points to that, like, morbid curiosity that humans so often exhibit in these situations.
Totally.
Like, I don't want to see somebody get eaten by a shark, but I don't not want to see somebody get eaten by a shark.
All right. Just want to see what's up.
I feel like the other interpretation could be like, oh, they're on the lookout. But no, they all look like they're, like, chilling there on their, like, beach chairs, like, ooh.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of them might have their family out there too, and are like, "Are they okay?" I don't know.
Yeah,
that's generous as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you agree with that, Ray? That it feels like morbid curiosity more so than worry?
Because if you were really worried, you'd like jump up and like start, you know, trying to find your family immediately.
And then immediately just like hysteria, like that.
Yes,
there's an
this
old dude
sequence
who
is
needs to
so
be dragged
good.
away
Yeah.
out of the water, which is like.
Well, I
feels
think
so intense.
Well, people are getting trampled and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no music here. It's just screaming chaos. I thought this is such an effectively well done scene.
And we get another sort of like fake out, right? Where it's like the two kids, and that's a fun scene too. The framing and the way that it's like shot, and the sort of like back and forth of like them popping out of the fin and then just guns.
Great fake out here, right?
Yeah.
Because like you are pretty sure again that so there's no Jaws music, right? So you like that's kind of the hint to the audience, like no, this is not the real thing here. And I love that we get this moment of like okay, relief, and then it's basically immediately
the lady is like she sees it going into the pond, and fuck, Michael's in the pond.
Yeah, like real. Like this thing is massive.
Yeah, it's so fucking big. They do a great job with that of like making it like. We don't have to like we'll tell you it's big, but like you'll see how big it is. Like and the implied largeness of it with the tooth and now like the fin.
Yeah. And you can just see a little bit of it underneath the water, and it's
when
just
it like knocks the dude off the rowboat and you're like, "Oh shit, that thing looks massive."
Yeah.
It's fuck, dude. So terrifying. Like I also love that the first peek we get of its face, if you will, is like obscured by the water.
Yeah, it's just you're just seeing it underneath, and
It's
it's
evil
and it's
under the
while
surface.
it's opening its mouth to grab
Yeah.
someone, which is just absolutely horrifying. And
the severed leg
it's just
sinking
silence
to the bottom,
too.
dude.
Yeah, and or at least it's silence when it passes by. There might be music here, I forget. But yeah, and this guy seems so nice too. You guys okay over there? It just immediately gets decimated by this shark.
Oh no, he sounds stupid. He deserved to die. I'm just joking. Stupid people do not deserve to die. I do love too. Again, Brody scared of water, but the way he springs into action,
Yeah.
this part actually is believable to me. Like, I don't think it takes away from his fear, because like I think we
Yeah.
really see how he's got that strong paternal instinct.
Yeah,
you know?
and this is one of the most like epic versions of the Jaws theme here, where it's like him like sprinting towards the pond, and I think there's like horns backing up the dun 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 dun. It's really intense, really good.
And we get this, like, again, we've set up so much of these leg shots. We had the legs of all the people, Chrissy's legs, the severed leg floating to the bottom. And as they drag Michael onto the beach, we get the camera sort of like stays in one spot to let his legs pass through the frame,
Spielberg,
letting us know that he's still like in one piece, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and but there is this moment of, oh, he's unconscious, and yeah.
She says he's dead,
Yeah,
and he goes,
no.
no, he's in shock.
Yeah, which is great.
We get a shot of Sean, his little brother, like crying in the
Yeah.
sand alone, you know?
Yeah, and Brody looks out at the ocean, and I think this is his kind of like, okay, now I have to go and take care of this personally now.
This part is the part where if I was gonna like nitpick a little bit would be Ellen's performance. Like, it is a tad too broad for me with her sobs
On the beach?
And I get it. She's a mother. She's devastated. But
yeah. It didn't stand out to me. I did have a moment like right after this that I actually really liked from her, where they're at the hospital and she's... This kind of thing always gets me is people trying to act strong when they're really like scared or hurting, but they're trying to help someone.
Yeah.
And there's this great the great scene of her like talking to Michael as he's getting brought through the
and
hospital.
it's like moving too. I
yeah,
love
and
that.
she's like being so cheerful, like, "Oh, we'll get you your favorite things.
He
and
wants
everything's
coffee,
gonna be
ice
okay.
cream.
Coffee and ice cream." And
I
then
assumed
as soon
he
as
wanted coffee ice cream.
Yeah,
not like coffee and
Yeah,
ice
yeah, yeah.
cream.
And then as soon as he goes in through the door, like you just see like that mask drop off her, and she just looks so tired and like horrified by the trauma her son just had to go through. And I just thought that was like a really really well done performance.
Really. I think well done for sure. I did love that a lot. Again, a little broad with the sobs, but yeah, the next scene she really brings it. I think that is my favorite scene of hers potentially.
Probably that's the one that stood out to me the most. Yeah.
And Brody says, take him home about Sean, and she asks to New York, and he says, no, home here.
Yeah, I love that. That's him kind of, that
It
moment
feels like
of
a
him,
strong second act moment.
Yeah, totally. It's him looking out at the ocean, deciding I'm going to defend this place, was him kind of also identifying this as home.
He takes it on. He's like ready to fucking go.
I love it.
And the mayor is completely, it's kind of like Brody, who's been like a little stressed and not discombobulated, but like a little out of sorts with having to deal with this, and the mayor being so sure and pressing him.
That's a good point.
And now it's a reversal where the mayor is completely discombobulated.
I love this
he's
scene from
so
Brody.
out of sorts, and Brody is in his bag. He's like, motherfucker, like you should have fucking listened to me. And the way that the mayor goes, again, like it is a human moment, but also kind of this selfish thing where he's like, my kids were on that beach too.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's I love that line from him because it's also like, yeah, so was everyone else's asshole, but also, very human, very relatable, very understandable. But like I was just thinking of this while I was thinking about the scene we had earlier. The mayor comes up and grabs him by the arm, the one with the power.
Yeah.
Here, Brody comes up and grabs him by the arm. You got a pen, Larry, and he says it. He's totally done with his shit
because he's gonna make him write him a check so he can hire Quint.
Yes, exactly. Love it. I wrote there, Brody's a badass.
That's when he takes the reins of the film, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like, again, like, what's cool about this movie is that, like, the main character isn't the one who's gonna, like, have all the solutions. He defers to people. Like, he has experts that he works with, right? But it is the moment in the movie where he's like, this is my responsibility now.
Yeah, he's a great kind of a leader from behind in a lot of ways through, like, for the second half as well, because half as well, because like I was saying, like it really is Hooper and Quint who are the ones who understand the situation better than him, but he does feel like he's kind of like the center point between
He's
them.
also the one who actually kills the shark in the end.
Well, of course, but like I just mean in terms of his leadership role and his position of
For
power.
sure. I mean, there is like a very specific part where he is obviously like over, being treated like he doesn't know anything,
Oh yeah. And I think it's all kind of building, like again, the respect there. That's kind of what this whole second arc is about, or the rest of the movie.
It is great too. It's like Brody says he's hiring Quint. Cut to Quint is setting all his terms. We see the different shark jaws. Really getting. I love the like production design of this space. Right, his. I don't know if it's like his home and office, just his office.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
But we do get so much. I feel like that is being told to us about this guy through like the things that we see around there. He's got his moonshine, and like we see Brody take a little sip and then spit it out, and he tells Hooper, "Don't drink that." Hooper immediately downs it.
Yeah, I love that.
The line, "No, there's no good man under 60." All this shit, it feels like it's so refreshing to see that old people will always be crotchety and think that their time is better than ours.
Yeah, I love it.
Talking about porkers.
Is this when we get the or is this the next scene where Quint is noticing Hooper's cage and he's asking him about it?
That is in this, because they walk through, like they walk out, and you see Quint sort of testing Hooper on his knowledge. He asks him to like tie a knot. We see that he can tie a knot. And he's saying this thing about like, you didn't specify a length or anything like that, kind of showing like Hooper does know. And Quint says to him, "You got city hands." And Hooper says, "I don't need this working class hero crap." Just like immediately, like it's even stated outright, like what their conflict is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel over the top. It feels perfectly, like it feels like right on key, like pitch perfect.
You've been counting money your whole life. Love that.
I'll take him for ballast.
Yeah.
He does say that.
Oh, what is it? I don't even know when he says this line. "Here's to swimming with bow-legged women."
He does say that, which is such a wild thing to say.
And
he asks it. Well, he also asks him about all the equipment. He's like, "What are you, some kind of half-assed astronaut?" Because there is this really cool visual setup. There's just this visual storytelling of like, look at the things Quint's bringing.
Yeah. Like
harpoons and shit like that. And it seems like a lot less stuff because it's his boat, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, he's just like got this like bundle of things, and fucking Hooper is bringing so much shit, dude.
Yeah. And this is when he's asking him about the anti-shark cage, and he's like, "Can you go down there with the shark?" And the shark's down there, and the cage is down there, and then he just starts singing, and this song keeps coming back.
Yeah.
"Farewell, adieu to you, fair Spanish ladies."
He's got a nice voice for it too.
Does.
Sounds great.
Love it.
And then we get Brody. Ellen is worried about Brody.
This is their goodbye.
Yeah, she's asking him like, "Did you take Dramamine? Do you have all your stuff?" And then like, I love how we hear Quint say something off in the distance. She's like, "That's gotta be Quint, right?"
Yeah, they've talked about this guy. Yeah, very.
I feel like maybe to the point where he's like a character in town, where she's heard of him.
Oh, sure, that's
before
a good point too.
He's even had to work with him.
That's a good point. Yeah, because he does say earlier that you all know me.
Yeah, and she does say, "What do I tell the kids?" And he says, "Tell them I'm going fishing."
Yeah, and I wrote here, it feels like he's going off to war, and she I don't know, call it like a mother's intuition or whatever. I feel like she senses the true danger of what this is now, like in a way that's even maybe more so than Brody. Like Brody's like, "No, the three of us got this," right? And I feel like she's more like, "I don't know, man. This is a big shark."
Yeah, for sure. I think, and it's so the contrast is so interesting too, with Brody and Ellen saying their goodbye, and fucking just Quint being so like insensitive and body and like kind of like being really vulgar, right?
Yep.
Classic sailor.
Yep, and I did think it was kind of goofy the way like it's emotional because she's like can't quite handle it, and she just kind of like she sees what's happening, and then she just starts running. And I wrote down she goes running out of the movie, but she's like the way she runs away with her arms flailing in the air. I don't know, it was like a little melodramatic I thought, but it was good.
Yeah, I didn't remember that. That's fucking funny though.
Yeah, she just sprints out of the movie.
Quint is so stoked though, dude. He's so stoked, and it carries over to the next scene where you see he's in his element. He's talking so much shit, saying so many ridiculous things, and I just remembered, which is so wild, but like swear like a sailor, all these things. I forget that like sailor and like sort of fishermen are associated with being very like body. Because I'm like, why is he so like vulgar?
Right.
Like, why is he being so naughty? And I just remember, oh, that's right, he's a sailor, and that's how sailors are.
Right, and a World War II veteran, like Navy sailor.
Yeah, like a sailor.
Yeah, like a hardcore sailor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a sailor.
For sure. Yeah, this is where I wrote the movie has a very interesting structure. We're like halfway through, and it feels like probably this is Act 2 if we had to nail it down.
Yeah, I think that was a good call with the second act beginning when Brody takes it into his hands.
Yeah, for sure. Quint is giving them all sorts of orders, and he chugs a beer and then crushes it, and Hooper's got the little cup of water.
That's pretty good. I like that.
He chugs it and crushes it, yeah.
Fun little bit.
We foreshadow the compressed air tanks here.
Love that shit. We love a good setup.
Oh yeah, Brody like knocks one of them over, and Hooper kind of freaks out, being like, "Yo, this thing can explode." Wink, wink. Nod, nod. Nudge, nudge.
And again, they have respect, but there's just like it's such a delicate situation, right?
Yeah, and expensive equipment, dangerous equipment. And Quint says here he's seen a shark eat a rocking chair one time, which is kind of wild.
It is pretty wild. I like we also have some like of Quint is trying to teach Brody how to tie a knot.
Yeah, I like that too.
And we have the whole like brown eel comes out of like the cave shit.
Oh yeah, I love that. All the old all the expressions for how you teach how to tie knots is very fun.
Yeah, and this is really fun because of like the line like sounds, and then
I love that Quint is the first one to notice it.
As soon as the line like makes that first sound, we start hearing the music.
So
and
good.
Yeah, Quint immediately noticing he's like bracing, which is the whole setup he's got.
Yeah, where he latches himself in with the harness and everything.
He picks up the fucking the like pole, and as soon as Brody says, "Hey, I got it," the line starts going super quick.
Love that. Just great.
Everyone goes to their battle stations. I
love it. Yeah, it just again. Like masterful tension building throughout this whole movie, and this is one of those scenes where it's like him figuring out how to tie the knot, pulling the knot close right when everything sets off is just like chef's kiss.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of great stuff, always great lines with Quint. Don't know if he's very dumb or very smart. He's going under the boat. Oh no, this is a smart big fish. Hooper is like dubious though, like you know, he's like
he doesn't think it's a shark.
Oh, it could be all these things, and the guy's like, you think some sort of gaming fish bit through this piano wire?
Yeah, and he says, "Don't tell me my business again." After they cut it loose. Yeah,
there's again, it's this sort of like experience versus education, theory versus application sort of thing, and also like the sort of like upper class, lower class conflict.
Totally.
We get a cool sort of fade into Quint up in the crow's nest. These are some of the most, these are the scenes, like the under shot scenes that most stand out to me because they're the few ones that we get that are outside of the water.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a really cool
I
shot
wrote that
of
shot
him,
down
like
too.
From underneath. And then there's also a shot of him from above, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we finally kind of see where Brody has kind of like like settled into. He's like the chum guy. And in the earlier scene where we do see like the chum like line, there's the blood trail behind the orca.
Oh yeah.
Which is such a striking visual image.
Totally.
And that is, I think, the moment like where we really see Brody's like out of his comfort zone, like doesn't really know what sort of like role he's gonna occupy. And at this point where he's like keeping like the chum line going, I think we're starting to see like the beginnings of him sort of like the grumblings of like, "Ah, God, this is all I'm gonna do
Right,
all
and I love
fucking
that
time."
it's all of this kind of trivial stuff overall
Yeah.
of like, what is my position in this crew, and they don't respect me enough, and blah 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 is all kind of immediately thrown out the window
Yeah.
while he's looking away, and the main villain shows its
It's
head.
such a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, super famous scene, and he backs away the whole.
It's so casual, like
Yeah,
in a way.
exactly. Yeah, just especially because it's been hidden this whole movie,
Yeah.
and then here it is, just revealed right in front of you. No music, no big show, just there it is, and the whole you're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah. I love that Hooper was playing solitaire and Quint tells him to stop playing with himself. And yeah, we have the 20-footer, no, 25,
Yeah.
all 3 tons of him.
And seeing it next to the boat.
Yeah.
Like, it really
Yeah.
is like the size of the boat.
Yeah, it's
this thing
insane,
is
dude.
massive.
And it like, yeah, we're setting up this sort of like, it's like focus, it's circling the boat, you know, like.
Yeah,
And,
I don't know what exact music that's playing here. I think it's kind of just like big epic music, but I wrote the music and I wrote an exclamation point 3 times with a star next to it because it's just like so big. They have Hooper is like telling him to go to the front of the boat so he can
Yeah.
get a picture of him, and he's like, go
Oh yeah, he
further
wants
out.
it for scale. That's so fucking funny.
Foreground my ass.
That's pretty good. It made me think of classic banana for scale, you know.
Oh yeah.
They really needed a banana. There's also like these awesome insert shots of like the feet on the edge of the boat, and I think it's Brody's foot like almost like slips for a second.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really showing how they're on the edge like
yeah, I
this
like
whole
that
time.
too. Just very tense.
And then we get like Ellen over the radio, Quint telling Ellen, "Oh, don't worry, everything's fine." He just like hangs up, you know, just like he doesn't want any distractions, right?
Yeah, and again, just like the tension of they need to tie off the tanks that they're going to be shooting into it, and Hooper is like setting up a tracker, I believe, or something. I'm not exactly sure what he's setting up, but I
think so.
Quint is like calling him like, Hooper, where are you? And he's like, hurry up, tie the knot, hurry
Yeah.
up. It's just all this tension around them trying to like execute quickly enough with this sudden out of nowhere visit from Jaws.
Yes, and the like barrels are so good for like the visual, right?
Yeah, of knowing where it is. It's again like the threat underwater, but you can't see it. Like, yeah, just this very ominous, like, oh, well, we know the villain is near. Yeah.
And we get this beautiful sunset. Quint is on the pulpit. He's smiling, looking like kind of crazed. And like it's like, what are we gonna do now? We're quitting, right? And Quint's like, nah, man, we're chasing him. Brody's like, no, we gotta go back, get a like bigger boat. And like as Brody's talking, the scene is like done with Brody because it just fades out.
Yeah, is this where it cuts into like Quint leaning against the like edge of the front of the ship and with the sunset behind him, and it's just like rocking, and he's just like this silhouette in the sunset?
I think that's the end of the scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. I love these shots.
And then of course them getting drunk. This sort of very like this great moment of camaraderie, you know, and we get the whole story of Quint's, like where all of his trauma sort of comes from, you know, and we get the classic lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes, you know.
Oh, so good. I mean, probably the best monologue in this movie, just so intense. And for those who aren't aware, the USSR Indianapolis was
The
a real...
USS Indianapolis.
Oh, yes, sorry, USSR, my bad. The USS Indianapolis was a real ship that did deliver the nuclear bomb to Japan, was shot down in the water on the return trip, and they were out in the water for like I think he said like 10 days or something like that. And yeah, there was just hundreds of sharks eating these people alive. And yeah, if you want to know more, there's a great hardcore history episode about this. Very intense.
Yeah, I also love how he ends the story with, anyway, we delivered the bomb. Also, he says he's never going to put on a life jacket again. There's so much of this cool, like, little things about him. And it's so striking, this story about how he thinks his friend is sleeping. And I just, like, that was so heavy for me. Thinking about sleeping in the water, being there over several days.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Knowing that you could get pulled under at any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was listening to this, like I said, this hardcore history episode, and I was having a hard time imagining a more horrifying situation to be in. It's just absolutely awful.
Yeah, and we get the like eerie wailing off in the distance of a whale, and then farewell and adieu again.
Yeah.
But then they start singing like all the song together, and I love how it's initially Hooper and Quint, and then Brody joins in, and he's like facing them, and he stands up and turns so we can see him singing, and the three of them are just like in frame, like, you know, the three amigos.
This is kind of solidifying of their friendship and respect for each other. And yeah, another great, just like amazing, tense build up here of like, it's all like, this is the breaking of the tension. This is the moment of peace. And then
the boat starts cracking.
Well, you see the tanks in the water start coming up to the boat, and then it cuts back to them, and they're like doing a full awesome little song together. They're like banging on the table, just having a great time. You're into it, and while you're in this moment of excitement and like relief, then the boat starts cracking, and they're immediately thrown into an extremely tense situation with the fire getting started and the lights going out.
Quint's so calm though throughout this. It's so wild.
Yeah.
He's just like, Chief, put out. He even says, Chief, put out the fire. And like he like notices the fire. He's like, what the fuck? There's this really awesome, very dim sort of like dawn light as well. And there's this point where like there's this shot of Brody when he's like pulling out the pistol, and it looks like there's a shooting star behind him.
Yes, no, I heard about this. There's two shots of shooting stars that I noticed, but yeah, they just happen to be filming out there. Meteor shower going on. Amazing. Again,
pretty
like
sick.
Lightning in a bottle type stuff.
Yeah, I like that's wild they were able to capture that, because a lot of those things that you see in the like night sky are hard to get on like camera. Like that must have been a wild shooting star.
Yeah, because it's like, and we Alfredo and I have gone to a lot of like camping trips to watch the Perseids meteor shower in August, and this is like at the red tint of them.
I wouldn't say a lot for myself. I've been 3 times.
Okay, but yeah. We've seen some meteor showers.
I don't want to oversell my expertise of meteor showers. You can take that mantle.
Sure, yeah, no, but the red color, very unusual. I've seen maybe like a few like that, but it's like
pink.
It's like the type of gas
like
burning
salmon.
off, like phosphorus or something like that. I don't know, but
salmon
very cool.
gas.
Yeah, salmon gas.
And
meteors.
what's really interesting to me too is like we have this whole story of the USS Indianapolis and them like sitting in the water waiting, and like I loved like that setup, and then we have this whole sort of like conflict start, and then we fade to the morning like, oh man, yeah, they're just hours and hours of this tension that they have to like bear with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's maybe this is the end of Act 2, like the shark trying to break in here, and like their kind of final moment of true peace before the final, like I feel like the rest of the movie is just like tension, right?
Yeah, the rest of the movie is like, it is going to be them I think this prolonged,
it's kind of like one final showdown.
Exactly. And I love the like dialogue where we can hear Hooper and Quint talking, but we can only sort of see their hands as they're working, and then again we have the barrels popping up.
Yeah. And Quint starts to kind of unravel for the rest of the movie, and I almost feel like his story the previous night almost like drudged up too much. Like, when's the last time he's told that story?
Yeah,
you know?
no, that's a good point. Yeah, because Brody wants to make a call, and Quint fucking like
smashes it.
You know, and that's insane.
Insane, yeah, which is one of the themes of aquatic films we got down.
And it is really also like just all of the like, I even thought for a moment, I was like, is he gonna hit Brody? Like there's just so much tension, like, but no, he like bashes that, right?
Yeah. I also noticed that I felt like Hooper was kind of listening to Quint more. There wasn't really bickering between them like we'd seen the rest of the movie. Like it felt both respect and just the severity of the situation. There's no more time for bickering.
Yeah, they're more in sync now. They're more like working in lockstep.
Which I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, all the whole process with the barrels, and like, oh, it won't be able to go under with 2 barrels, you know, like, or like that it's still able to go under with 2 barrels, and you're like, dude, this thing must be so strong. Because that's another thing like I'm thinking about. Like we were talking about the Pirates of the Caribbean episode, being able to pull that whole boat down would require so much strength. So for the shark to be able to pull like eventually 3 barrels down, that's so wild.
Yes, I love that. Just the whole movie, it keeps escalating just how powerful this shark is. Again, it reminds me of Moby Dick, right? You just like, it seems like a force of nature because it's defying what you think is possible from a life form.
Yeah, and I think along the lines of like Hooper isn't questioning anything. At one point, Brody is saying like, "Why aren't we taking the shark back to shore instead of him leading us out to sea?" And Hooper just looks at him and looks back at Quint and doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
We get the barrels tied to the cleats. This part is so fucking wild. Like, Hooper's legs almost fucking getting taken off like by the rope. And before this, Quint even says like, "I've seen like ropes like fuck people up." Like,
yeah,
so
it's
like
it's
the danger is like known, you know?
right, and it's setting up just like they're starting to panic a little.
Yeah.
It feels like where they're not quite as systematic. They don't feel like they have the confidence they did when they first came out here.
There's the whole like tie him to the cleat, like tying the cleats, and then it's like, oh, actually we have to untie it because he's gonna pull out the transom. I always love this in movies too, where it's like the first decision you're like, oh, that makes sense, yeah, let's do that, and then you see how it goes, and you're like, no, that's a bad idea. We need to undo this, and like the difficulty they're having with the ropes because they're like pulling, and Quint finally goes for the machete, fucking cuts him off, you know.
And then it comes flying over the other side of the ship, and it knocks Brody's glasses off. Yeah, very just
and
like
for the
intense.
rest of the movie, no glasses.
Yeah, very intense setup. They get splashed by the fin too as it's passing by. We like our guys to get wet in an aquatic film.
I mean, they have to.
Yeah, they gotta get wet. And yeah, then the boat starts getting pulled by the shark.
Yeah.
Because the boat, they've pushed the boat too far, I think, at this point,
yeah,
right?
Quint is pushing the shit out of the boat because they're trying to get closer to the shallows. Like, he wants to take him into the shallows, and he's just pushing the shit out of the boat. And Hooper's like, don't fucking do it. You see the black smoke come up, and the music starts playing a little, like, farewell and adieu.
Yeah,
like,
yes.
theme while Quint is looking
the melody
super
is woven
concerned.
into, like, again, great medley stuff, yeah.
And we get Quint giving them the life jackets, not taking one himself, of course, because he already said that. And now he's like curious what Hooper's idea is, right? And so now we get, all right, like let's try the cage, and Brody's like, dude, no, he's gonna fucking tear that up, and Hooper's like, we don't have any other ideas.
You have any better suggestions?
And like these process shots, they put together the cage. Hooper looking super nervous. He forgets he has his glasses on. He's got no spit. Love those little touches that we know how really nervous and how insane this is what he's doing. And he's like getting lowered, you know, like in.
Yeah, I just wrote down Hooper versus Jaws here because, oh my God, this is a great. I mean, this is Hooper's like big hurrah, right? I mean, he's been, an important character here, but this is like after this, he drops out of the movie basically till the end. So this is his kind of climax here, and he immediately gets thrown off balance when it comes up behind him, knocks the javelin out of his hand, and him just hit his panic as he's looking, trying to see where it went, and it starts trying to break through the cage. I love that he pulls out a knife and starts stabbing it while it's trying to get him. It's just
there's
like
also the
epic.
like scene of it swimming away, and this is what I was talking about with it fading into like the gray, right? And then like that is so fucking freaky. Like the like murkiness of the water, like everything is so obscured, and fuck, man, it feels like it's coming at him with like a vengeance. And I love how like you're like, well, he's got to like swim up or something, get back to the boat, and no, he like kind of has like this really good idea of like, I'm gonna hide like
down
lower
low
in the water. Like, see, it seemed like in the movie when I was like, oh yeah, that's probably a better idea.
Yeah, that's the thing I would have never done, and I would have gotten eaten, I think.
Yeah.
But he knows this world better than me.
And the boat is fucking getting now
the line
like
breaks.
tipped. Yeah, and it's like getting tipped over so much, pulled willy-nilly by the fucking shark, dude.
Yeah.
And that's really like giving us again a sense of how huge this fucking shark is.
They're so overwhelmed by this thing here. This boat and the three men are not enough to take on this force of nature, and I love that. And I love that when the line breaks, Brody tells him to rig something up really quick, and Quint does. He like rigs up like something to a fishing line to be able to pull the cage out, which is great.
And they see it and they're like, "There's no fucking way this guy survived."
Yeah, which is kind of the lowest. Well, I guess this next scene is the lowest moment to an extent, but just like this is an all hope is lost moment where like now the ship is sinking, the engine shot, one of our guys is gone, and it's coming.
And to top it all off, it just flops right on deck.
There. Yeah, it's just straight into, wrote big frowny face here. No music. horrifying scene, most horrifying scene in the movie, especially since you've really come to respect Quint, even if he is a madman. And given his story about his like his trauma, like this is his worst nightmare. It's just horrible, awful.
Yeah, horrible demise for young Quint.
Very Moby Dick again. Captain Ahab going down on his lost in his madness, trying to conquer nature.
Yeah. And oh man, just the way like I love the like boat tipping.
Yeah.
He's tipping the boat so they come into his mouth, you know, and Brody just like the will to live, like holding on.
Yeah, and it's very sad, like in a way, this is, or Hooper bringing the gas cans is his demise here, like because he's holding on to the ledge and then the gas can rolls and crushes his hand, and that's what makes him let go and drop into the mouth.
But it's also what ultimately defeats the shark.
I know.
And this is when he shoves the fucking O2 tank
the way
into
it just
its mouth.
busts through the cabin, and it just so intense. It's just perfect tension building.
I do have the note here that all things considered, Brody's doing pretty well for a dude who's terrified of the water.
Yeah.
I love the whole process. I do love the process though of like the boat sinking and him finding the high point.
Yeah.
And like eventually like settling on the mast. And there's this
so cool
part where we finally start to see land in the background. Like, so this moment is when we start to have this like visual semblance of hope. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, the shot of like the high shot of him like positioning the rifle on this tilted mast. Oh yeah, he's stabbing it with the javelin. Yeah, it's just so intense.
Harpoon.
I'm sorry.
This is an aquatic movie, dude. What are you doing? Cut. Take it again.
Yeah, when he's stabbing him with the harpoon. Yeah, just
and then he loses the harpoon, right? And it's
it gets stuck in him, and he pulls away. So then, it's just him with the rifle. Him looking for the perfect shot because he saw that the gas can was in its mouth.
Mast is almost in the water.
Yeah, and it's just tilted sideways, slowly sinking.
It looks really, really good.
It looks so good. It's so perfect. It's just like it feels like the threading the needle moment, right? And it's just perfect tension.
Why isn't this line more like
"Smile, you son of a boom"? Love it.
Yeah, why don't people say that more? It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it to people all the time now. Just the blood explosion is insane.
Yeah. It's a lot. And I do have this kind of sadness for the shark because like at the end of the day it was just an animal trying to survive. I do feel bad for it throughout this movie, but it's just like this such an epic struggle of man and nature here.
It was trying to survive. We're trying to survive.
Yep.
We got guns and O2 tanks. Sorry, brother.
Yeah. And even then still like that's why I think Quint's death is so essential for this story. Like it would feel too easy if one of them didn't die. I think.
He's the perfect dying character, right? He's the oldest. He's obviously been through a lot.
And the most tragic, right? Because
this relief of him like passing. But yeah, him passing in this way that
was the source of all his trauma and insanity.
Well, I think also like to be fair, I don't think like there's something kind of beautiful about it because like he didn't have to sit in the water for like days, right? His end came quick.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
I think there's something about it. This scene of the red clouds in the water of the blood, this is really, really beautiful. Like the way that they like kind of like disperse throughout the water, really kind of highlighting like the like unity of shark and man as living creatures born from the womb of life, you know?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It is like kind of drawing this visual connection back to like, although we like man versus nature, man is nature.
Well, I think that's why I felt bad for it here, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just like another living, bleeding creature.
It looks wild the way it sinks, though. Yeah. Really grody.
It is gross and epic and like triumphant.
Yeah, and then like Brody's super stoked. And then he sees Hooper. He's so relieved, you know.
And they laugh together as they both realize that.
Well, he says Quint, no.
Yeah.
And they both look serious.
Yeah, and I love that. It's just like first relief, then a little bit of mourning, then they kind of wrap it up. They start swimming back to shore.
Yeah, I love how like the ingenuity isn't done. They use the barrels to like float in.
Yeah, great.
And then we have the exchange of what day is this? I think the tide is with us.
Yeah.
And he says, I used to hate the water. And he says,
Can't imagine why.
Can't imagine why.
Great,
lovely ending wide shot with the blue, the beige, the green, all the colors presented there, the light waves lapping. and very short closing credits, which is not something you see in movies at all
Yeah,
anymore.
I was a little annoyed. I was watching it on Amazon, and it immediately
Popped up with the thing.
the next movie, and I didn't get to the mouse in time. I was like, guess I won't watch the credits. Whatever.
Oh, you heard it here first. Connor did not finish the movie this
Oh,
time.
I'm such a cheater. Love it though. This movie, amazing.
Good shit. Definitely like hitting it heavy on the man versus nature shit. Not as
Yeah.
much longing in this, you know.
No.
Some commentary on freedom, but really, this is so much about like, this is kind of the No Country for Old Men kind of like vibe with the desert movie. I feel like.
Yeah.
Tremors too, you know, it is kind of Tremors-esque, as we said.
Yeah, it's almost like a mix
Yeah.
of No Country for Old Men and Tremors.
What would you give it if you were gonna tier it?
I am gonna go ahead and give it an S tier. I think for all the reasons I've stated, just that it is this perfect blend between something a bit more heady, a bit more like, character study, emotional core around this really fun, epic adventure with just great music, great acting, great dialogue.
Yeah, definitely a classic film. I wanna reiterate the tier rankings are not set in stone. You know, they never will be. We're gonna do something a little bit more in depth, and I am definitely feel very open to like. I'm not someone who has to be committed to like one thing sitting in one place forever.
Totally. Well, I've said before that my rankings is really just my impression on this watch.
So I feel like, there's definitely the opportunity for this to change, especially through discussion. Great piece of cinema, super well done. I think in this case, see, because this is another thing that I haven't really said. After we watched Star Wars, I did kind of think like I maybe went too far, carried by my nerddom. So what I will say here feels like it doesn't jive with what I said in the Star Wars episode, but I'm going to give this a very high A tier.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's very fair.
I'm very fair.
Very fair man. Yeah, I was going into this remembering that I really love this movie, and it was another one of those. It's like, is it going to quite hit S tier for me? But just the fact that I was getting like a little emotional during some of those scenes, and like, I gave Tremors an A tier because I thought that was just like perfect script writing, just super tight, fun setup. And this really does remind me of Tremors, but with a stronger emotional core, a bit more artistic. Elevates it a lot. John Williams' score, just fantastic.
All of the sequels to this movie suck. There's no Empire Strikes Back, so I've
never watched any of them.
I haven't either. I'm just guessing they all suck.
Yeah, nobody ever talks about them, so.
Well, there she is.
There she is.
There she blows.
There she blows. I love that movie.
Speaking of blowing.
Is that what we're speaking of?
Speaking of blowing, yeah.
Next week.
Because the next movie we're doing is awesome.
Yeah. I haven't watched. This was a childhood favorite of mine. We'll be watching Waterworld.
I was being a little tongue-in-cheek.
I'm very excited for Waterworld. I haven't watched it years and years and years. I'm expecting it to be very cheesy and campy, but with a lot of fun. I loved Dennis Hopper. It's going to be a good time. Yeah,
I'm expecting this one to potentially be the one we shit on the most.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I know shit isn't like a liquid, aquatic. It's more of like a solid, but
yeah, we might have a guest on.
So maybe we'll piss on this movie.
What was that?
Maybe we'll piss on it and then drink that piss.
That would be very on theme. Yeah, no, I remember it being a great movie. I mean, great is a strong word, but like I remember it being a really fun movie.
I think that's the first shot of Kevin Costner in the movie is him drinking his own piss.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I guess we'll see.
Can't wait.
Well, we'll catch you all next week. As said at the start of the episode, please leave a 5-star review, like and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, I think. Yeah, find us on social media as well, Cinema Forecast, Fourcast.
Thanks, guys.